Are we ready? We're ready.
Now we're ready.
Yay. Welcome back. So excited.
So happy. Nice to see both of you.
Oh. I'm going to kick us off because Lisa Maximus is with us today on Women Around a Table Eating Food. And I couldn't be more excited. I mean, I know Lisa well at this point, and so let me just introduce her, and then we'll kind of get rolling into our conversation, and then I will let you speak, Lisa. But so Lisa is my strength and conditioning coach. I'll get into how I captured Lisa as well, because you're going to see a theme in these wonderful women who come on here is that I capture them. But Lisa is a world record holding power lifter. She has multiple all-time world records in her field. Crazy. If you ever go on YouTube, Instagram, what have you, and watch her lift heavy shit, it's pretty amazing at her stature and things like that. So she does strength and conditioning coaching online and virtually. I mean, online and in person out in Utah. She is the creator of a strength program, Lisa Maximus Strength Program, which is on Playbook, which is super awesome. So we'll talk about all the ways you can work with Lisa also at the end. She is a wife, a mom, a daughter, a sister, a friend. And so she has a deep passion for relationships and her role in all of those capacities. And what I can say personally is that she brings that same passion for the relationships in her life into her coaching. And she cares incredibly deeply for those that she coaches. And that's been such a gift to me. And I will tell you all of the things over the course of the couple hours that we have together, what Lisa's done for me. But she is a powerful force. Her knowledge and wisdom of the body and how it moves is beyond anybody that I've ever encountered. And we're approaching 50. And so it's been a long time that I've been looking for shit like this. So, long story short, we're so happy to have you here. You're going to be talking about what strength means to you over the course of your life and now. And we're going to ask you a lot of questions. So, just welcome.
Thank you so much. It was making me
Excuse
blush. I'm
me.
like, oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing is that what we usually start with, Lisa, is, and I call Lisa a whole bunch of different things. I call her boss, I call her queen, I call her other things. So I'm not sure what will roll out of my
What
mouth.
will fall out of your mouth?
Sometimes
That's
calling her
adorable.
Lisa feels weird because when I text her and I'm like, "Hey, boss, here are some videos of my deadlift."
I
Um,
love it.
but
So you just
today,
call her boss.
yeah, I'm
Yep.
going to call her boss.
There you
What
go.
I have, we always bring food with us or something of sustenance because we're around a table eating food. Today, nobody who is listening will be able to see this, but I have my little bowl of my Greek yogurt
Mm.
that has some fresh pear, a little oatmeal in there because Lisa reminds me that I need to have my carbohydrates as well,
hmm
a bunch of other little things. So that's what I brought to the table.
Lisa, what do you have? Do you have a
Oh, right
snack?
now, right now
Yeah.
we are drinking the coffee.
Uh,
Yes, I am a coffee drinker for sure. And I actually have some Nitor. I'm really big on protein, obviously, that
mm,
being mega important for muscle mass and
mm,
especially for women, especially as we age. And so I have some Nitor protein coffee creamer in my coffee. So there's
mm.
and collagen.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm like doing the
Have you tried a million things to try to make that will give you the protein and will give you the collagen and still allow coffee to taste like coffee?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I bet. I feel
And
like it's a journey for
oh,
people.
and I've
Just
got
just
gut
find
stuff.
something that's
I
good. Mm.
Yes, but I've got so much gut stuff that I have to be really careful, like obnoxiously, annoyingly careful with what I consume because my gut is a
Mm,
mess and has been for my whole life, but has gotten worse
mm,
over the past few years. And so I have to be careful with, people are like, oh, try this type of protein powder or this creamer or this. I'm like, "Oh, I can't touch any of that stuff. And so,
mm.
yeah, I have to be really careful.
The
Yeah.
Well,
protein powder that you use is, you've said before, the Nitor, it's the
Yep.
one that really doesn't like bug your gut.
It's the
That's
only
the
one.
only one.
The only one. And it's because of fillers. I mean, and it's funny
mm,
because they were low stock. They were out of their protein. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm running really low. I got to find another company. So I was looked up and, ChatGPT, the best protein, what's the cleanest protein powder? And they gave me
Mm,
3 or 4 different brands and I Googled them. I, looked up all the ingredients. The ingredients list is 20, 5
yeah.
paragraphs long. I'm like, what is this crap? They're all full
Yeah.
of, I mean, there's only legitimately about 3 brands that I found that are clean. Like actually,
Mm,
really, truly. And when I say clean, I hate that word too, kind of, but that have cane sugar, whey protein, isolate that's cold processed or slow processed.
mm,
And that doesn't have, again, a bunch of additives, a bunch of natural flavors and all that stuff.
sure.
It's really difficult.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Uh, I feel like talking about like what's in my bowl pales in comparison to all the questions that I want to ask you
Yeah.
as somebody who has also had some dietary issues in the last decade. I would love to go into that. I have
Yeah.
um I have gazpacho. I have smoked salmon gazpacho today.
Ooh.
What?
What is
Yes.
in that?
Dear listeners, it's a blue bowl filled with homemade, actually, truth be told, my husband makes an absolute killer blender salsa. And it's so good and it's so smooth and sort of like restaurant style because it's smooth that when we have had it for a little bit and I don't want to just be dipping things into it, I turn it into soup. So then I had smoked salmon and pepitas and some Mary's crackers crunched up in there. So that's sort of like
Oh,
tortilla soup, but not, but yes. So that's what I'll be snacking on. It's very
I
pretty.
love, I
that sounds
love,
amazing.
I love
I
that.
I like my smoked salmon. So Nick, do you want to start or do we want to go to
Yeah.
even just talking about, yeah, you kick it off.
Yeah, I would just, love to share a little bit with, first of all, how I found Lisa, and I don't think you know this actually, and why I chose to work with Lisa as my strength and conditioning coach. So, and then how I captured her, and now she's going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life. So, and
Yay.
she, whether she, whether
Isn't
she
she
likes it
lucky?
or not.
Uh,
You're both lucky.
So, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, I had started to do a lot of research on longevity and women and aging and perimenopause and all of the different things. And I had been a marathon runner before. So I've done several marathons. Jen's cheered me on during those marathons. And there was something just shifting in my body and it wasn't feeling right. And I know, Lisa, you can understand this because you've been a runner too in your life.
Mm,
And I was like, I have to do something different. And so then I started to learn about like how important strength training was for women who were in perimenopause and again approaching 50. So I wanted to just become stronger and fitter. And I started to lift with some guidance of some of the boys that I work with. I work with all men, oddly enough. And then I hit a point where it's like, okay, I'm starting to lift a little heavier. I need somebody to help me do this safely and properly and who
mm.
understands me as a woman in midlife. And so, of course, our little Instagram algorithm thing does something and probably heard me talking about it, and up
It
pops.
read your mind.
It
Yeah. It
did.
read your mind. It turned into an earworm and pulled it out of your brain.
Pulled it right out. And up pops Lisa lifting something incredibly heavy. And she was talking about it. She was talking about the body mechanics related to it. And she was just so wholeheartedly herself also, like there was this authenticity to her. I could tell that she talks the talk and walks the walk, and that was really important to me. So I kind of stalked her for a few months, not gonna lie. Watched everything that I could watch, followed her on Insta, went to YouTube, did all these things, and then I finally,
Had you reached out to her yet at that point?
no, no, I
No.
had,
Okay. So it's
and
silent
then
stalking.
silent stalking. And then I was like, okay, I need to know her and I need her in my life and I need her to help me with this. And I did not think, I was like, oh, I'm going to reach out, but she like, maybe she won't respond. I was like all nervous and shit. And so I reached out to her and she's like, yeah, let's get a discovery call in the books. And then when we
Mm,
met, I was like, oh yeah, it's a no brainer. And it's been
mm.
like history ever since. And we've been working together for, it'll be 2 years in January, Lisa.
has it been that long? I feel like, God, I feel like it has not been that long.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Mm.
crazy.
Yeah. And so that's how
Is
I
there
found.
Is that, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that was Bill.
Is there, Lisa, what was your experience with Nick when you guys first started working together? When this, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people find you through Instagram, I would imagine, and just walk us through that. I'd love to hear
Yeah.
it. Your
One of the
inception
hurdles,
story.
one of the hurdles I find incredibly frustrating for me is that people with the intimidation thing, where it's like, well, you're lifting, you have to be, I heard, or there's a rumor going around that you had to be a professional athlete to work with me. And I'm like,
Mm,
what? Like, that's not even my clientele at all. In fact, most of my clientele is people who are starting their strength journey, have never lifted before, just getting
mm,
into it, wanting to learn how to use their bodies. Um, and that's also like what I love, who I love working with. Mind you, I love working with athletes too, but athletes almost don't, when you're top end of what you're doing, you almost don't need, you have a coach, but it's a different level of coaching. You're almost
mm,
collaborating with your coach. Like the way that I work with my coach and my powerlifting, we collaborate. Like it's,
mm,
I have to base things off how I feel, blah, blah, blah. When you're new, you need someone to kind of tell you exactly what to do. Like
mm,
you don't have quite the feel yet. You need someone to be calling the shots, like almost like someone's doing the thinking for you.
mm,
And so, when Nick reached out, it was, for me, it's people who want to commit. That's the hardest part is the commitment, sticking to it. And it's really hard to start a fitness journey, when you're not committed because the first 3 months
mm.
for me, right? I've been doing this now. I started coaching when I was 19 years old. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm 37.
Ah,
So I've been working with
whoa.
people for a very, very long time. And when the hardest part is that first 3 months, okay, whenever you start anything new, number one, I need to learn you. You need to learn me. We need to understand the workouts. And then it's the basics. And that's the hardest part about building a strength routine is the basics. And people are constantly looking for what's new, what's flashy, what's fun. It's
Mm,
exciting. It's change all the time. And the truth of the matter is, you don't need that. You don't need to stand in a Bosu ball with, with one dumbbell in one hand and overhead squatting and it's like way too much shit, right? Like you have to work on the friggin' like how many people struggle with this air squat and a body weight lunge? Like it's
mm,
immense. How do you plank? I mean, I have to reteach people how to do a plank. And so
mm,
it's one of those things where you have to strip everything away and start from kind of ground zero and rebuild back up, with that coach, right? No matter where you're starting a fitness journey, whether you're new or not new, it's kind of, and so you have to be patient. My point being, you have to be patient and willing to kind of strip back and let the ego go. The hardest people
mm.
to work with is when someone comes in and they're like, I was taught to squat like this, and they don't want to hear what the coach has to say. And I'm like, but that's
Yeah.
not how your body mechanics work. So you can keep trying to force square peg into round hole, which is why your fitness isn't working. Keep doing it your way then. Why am I here? Why you hire me? It's same thing with
Hmm.
nutrition. Anytime I talk about nutrition with anyone, I need help with my nutrition. Okay, tell me about your nutrition. Well, actually, it's not that bad. That's literally the first sentence that comes out of everyone's. Well,
Mm,
actually my nutrition is really good. I eat really good. And I'm like, but 2 seconds ago, you said you needed
mm,
help. So there's like this defense mechanism that kind of comes out. And so you gotta break that down and get through some of that as
mhm,
well. So it's a very emotional, um, you know, coach, your relationship with your coach is very intimate and you have to let go of a
mm,
lot of barriers. And women get very emotionally attached to food. So
Mhm.
interesting with your
Yeah.
podcast name. You guys were talking on your first podcast about how food culturally, within family units, within cultures, within celebratory, right, funerals and weddings, and when someone comes into the world and leaves the world, food is very much a part of it, and we don't realize how emotionally attached we are to our food. And then they do scientific studies, believe it or not, when we work with men and women almost always opt out because we can't, even when it comes to
mm. That's
doing, yeah,
fascinating.
isn't it wild? So when with men are less attached, women are very much emotionally attached to their food and
Mhm.
making those changes. And so, and there's guilt and shame around food with women,
Yeah.
and expectation and society expectation of what women should,
Sure.
what, I mean, you see it when you go to a restaurant and a waiter goes to serve you, right? My husband and I if he gets a salad and I get a burger or a steak, they're like trying to give it to him, trying to give me the
Absolutely.
salad.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm eating I'm the burger person, like,
Yep.
and so there's a weird, there's definitely that underbelly of, nutrition in women, and I'm going off on a tangent. But when Nick and I started working together, she was very much wanting to learn from the basics. Like, let's strip everything that I know away. She goes, pretend I know nothing. And I'm like, again, coming from someone with a PhD who's very educated, and it's God, was that I was like, this is gonna be great. Like, I've got
Mhm.
someone with patience who wants to start from the beginning, no ego, and it just wants to learn and absorb, and knows that it's going to take time to nail things down. And it was just brilliant. And so that's what we did. And she's got shoulder issues that we're still working through, because things don't come on immediately, and they don't go away immediately, right? Injuries like that, they come on over time, and it takes time to iron them out and figure them out. But it's just been a blast to watch her get strong, and again, learn the basics and learn the little stuff, because the little stuff, my coaching philosophy is really hands-on from the get-go, and figuring out all the little tiny nuances. And then I'm like, and now fly, right? Like, now we go.
Mhm.
Fly, birdie,
Yeah, fly,
fly.
fly, little birdie. And everyone wants to come
Mhm.
in and, train really hard and then fix the stuff as we go. I don't love that as much. It's not as much so if you're coming to me to work with me for coaching, I did the thing for years where I can slam you and I can make you puke on session one. It's easy. There's a formula to it. You do a bunch of legs, build up a bunch of acid, and then put you on your face into a plank or a mountain climber, and you're gonna puke. Like, it's an easy thing to do. And coaches kind of walk around with this badge of honor, like, I made my clients puke my last session. And I'm like, that's actually not a badge of honor. That's, you're an idiot and don't know how to coach people, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
a
They were like, and
terrible.
are they going to call you back? Like,
Well, they
how
do.
many,
They do. They
who's your
do.
repeat? Really?
They
Because they like
People
it. They
love
like the
being
pain.
hardcore,
Yeah.
and I'm so hardcore that I puked. I'm like, actually, you pushed yourself past your ability, is what you did.
Yeah.
So, congratulations, you're going to get hurt at some point. Like, that's all that tells me, is that you don't know when to stop, and you don't know. And so, and again, it happens. Getting sick in workouts does happen when people they don't eat enough. Your blood sugar drops, you can feel nauseous. There's stuff like that. Your body wants to get rid of lactic acid, and that's one way to do it. So I'm not insulting anyone that happens to, but as a
Sure.
coach, we try to avoid that. Like, I want to push you to the point where you're, almost there, but you're not there,
Hmm.
right? And again, so that's called appropriate coaching for where your client is at. But again, stripping things down and figuring out I love finding the weakness. Find the problem, fix the problem. And this is kind of a overarching theme in my life. Find the problem, fix the problem. You're only as strong as your biggest weakness. So when you find that bottom link in that chain, if you can make your weakness your strength, God,
Mm.
that's a superpower to be able to do that. And again, in every aspect of your life. So, and how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're cheating the hard stuff, if you're avoiding your weaknesses, if you're trying to get through things, again, avoiding the hard stuff, avoiding where you're weak, what are you doing? Your weaknesses are going to continue to be your weaknesses. Your strengths are going to continue to be your strengths, and you're not really getting to where you want to go. And in the fitness world, you're setting yourself up for injury. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of my coaching philosophy, where it's like, let's build you up, let's teach you how to lift heavy shit. And then the second biggest theme, the biggest problem is what people think is heavy. That's
Okay.
probably another,
Mm.
yeah.
Talk about
What?
that, because I think you made such a good point, Lisa, at the beginning too, around when what you've heard is people feel like they need to like emulate you and like squat 620 something pounds, deadlift 470 something pounds, and all of the things when that's heavy for you.
Right.
That is not heavy for Jen, for me. So yeah, talk a little bit about what heavy means.
Yeah. So that's obviously been let's talk about let's talk about health and what like heavy for healthy people is. And then we'll talk a little bit about competing and being competitive.
Mm.
So many times I've met people who are like, I lift really heavy. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, tell me about it. Like, yeah, I deadlift like 200. You're talking like a dude. Again, you're like a dude. I deadlift like 200 pounds. I was like, oh, like, that's not like, my heart goes out to you. I love that, but like, that's not heavy. And my point kind of is like, we gotta rethink about what heavy is. I did a really funny post on Instagram about the things at Costco. and I decided that I was going to take a scale to Costco and start weighing stuff. And I came up with this idea because it was an older woman, this cute little old lady. She's in her church clothes, and she pulls up her cart to her, and she's like hardly walking, right? She pulls up her cart to her car, and she opens her cart trunk, and she bends down to the bottom of the basket, and she pulls out the case of water, right? Those Costco cases of water,
Yeah.
picks it up and hucks it into the trunk of her car. And I'm
Yes.
thinking like, yeah, you know, that's right. You huck that, water into the trunk of your car. Like, hell
You
yeah.
can swear, by the way. We
Okay,
just want
good.
you to know we're going to have a little E next to this,
No, well,
so
I'm in Utah, so you never know.
Sometimes.
So
Love
swearing is the sin. And so she's hucking this water into her car, and I'm thinking to myself, like, that's heavy. Like this little old
Mm,
lady who can't walk straight, like can't walk upright, just
mm,
picked this, and I'm thinking, how much I wonder how much that actually is. I think it's like 47 pounds. Like I weighed it. I can't remember what it is right now off the top of my head. I think it's 40-ish, 47 pounds, something like that, 45 pounds, 43 pounds, something in there. And I'm thinking to myself, if I took that little old lady in my gym and said, you're going to do a bent over row with a 45-pound dumbbell, there is no way in hell that she would be like, okay. Like oh no. Like if she was by herself, she probably would have grabbed a 10-pound dumbbell and been like, oh, this is so hard. Because that's what we think. We think women are touching the fives, tens, and 15s, and we just
yeah.
stop. We just stop. I see women in the, starting to lift and they just stop. And I'm like, why are you stopping? Like
Mm,
what is it in your brain that goes 25 pounds and that's it? That's as
mm,
far as you ever go. You've never touched anything heavier for any movement. And I'm not saying go up, certain movements call for heavier weights than others. And so but I am stamping this every time I work with someone new in my gym and they're brand new. I'm talking like no fitness base. I have them do a bent over row with a 40-pound dumbbell, and I have had a 100% success rate. There's not
Wow.
one person I've worked with that cannot do a bent over row with a 40-pound dumbbell. But when I tell them to do it, like
yeah.
Why do you think that
40 pounds,
is? Like,
it's
why do you
this
think it is?
society
Mm.
and pink
Mm,
dumbbells and every magazine. And it drives me nuts when I'm watching these fitness magazines. Everything is pink and color coded. And I look
Mm.
at men's fitness magazine and nothing's color coordinated. It's not like they have blue. Like,
Mm. Right.
oh,
right.
we have
Yeah.
pink and they're, coated. And even like I've seen things where the barbell is coated pink and the plates are
Mm.
colored pink. And again, it's
Mm,
cute, it's fine, it's fine. But men's isn't like that. And again, men go into the gym and they don't have a cap. So I'm like, what is it that women have this cap of,
Mm.
20 pounds, 25 pounds?
mm,
Anything over that is, where men just don't. They just keep going up and they
Yeah.
don't have a cap on it. And why? Why do we have this? There's a stop point.
Hmm. Hmm.
Why? And again, back to the concept of the water bottles, where you're physically capable of being 80 years old and picking up a 50, not
yeah.
thinking twice about it. Had no
Yeah.
problem hucking that 50-pound water case into your car. But if you put a dumbbell, a barbell, anything in a gym setting of that weight in front of someone, they would completely shut down.
Mm.
And again,
Yeah.
You
how
know,
much is your purse weigh? How much is your luggage? Watch people on an airplane
yeah.
pick up their overhead luggage and put it in the overhead compartment. Weigh that. Weigh
Hmm.
that suitcase and tell me that it's 10 pounds. Because
Yeah.
that's what women are using in the gym to do anything overhead. And I'm like, it's your luggage weighs more than that. So like riddle me that. Even a
Hmm.
vacuum cleaner, like, pushing that back and forth,
Sure.
that ain't 10 pounds either.
Yeah.
So
Do
I
you
just
see that generationally? Like you're talking about this woman who
older.
was older.
Hmm.
Is it I've done this my whole life, so I can pick, I'm just going to do it because I've always done it and I don't have anybody else at home to do it for me? Is it that they can't that we're not equating things like, oh, this is how much like
I think that.
a gallon of milk is 10 pounds, I think. Do we just forget what things weigh or
I
just
think that.
not
I think
know?
you're not. I think you're stronger than you think you are. That I think
Mm,
it's you're strong, way stronger than you think you are. And we have these caps in the gym, these like this governor, this self-governor.
Hmm.
And it's funny because we all have a self-governor. And you learned about this, Nick. I'm sure you have experienced it with running, right? Where it's like, how, have you guys ever read the book Endure?
Who's it by?
Oh, I can't.
I don't know.
I'm gonna
Okay.
look it up now because I have to know. It's called Endure and it's long. It's long, it's big.
No, I probably didn't
Um,
then. No.
it's probably one of my favorite books I've ever read. And
Okay.
it's the psychology about, here it is. It's the psychology behind like how much can the human body take? Like what
Mm.
is the um it's called Endure, and it is by Alexander Hutchinson
Okay.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, Malcolm
Oh,
Gladwell.
there you
Okay.
Yep.
go.
Yep.
Mhm.
And it is, again, it's one of my favorite, like it's, I don't know if you can, there we go.
We could put a link to it in
There
the
we go.
show
Yeah,
notes.
probably
That's
one of my
great.
favorite things. It's the psychology of how much can you, it's kind of like they study, people who fall dead on, from too overexertion. Like,
Yeah.
Mm,
why does one person, die from that when not someone else doesn't? Is there a
Right.
genetic factor? Is it like, what is the thing, right? And so they're studying this. And there was one of the studies was not studies, but one of the things that they were looking at was this woman who had gotten pulled out into the ocean, and she was bobbing with her kid. She had like a 3-year-old or 5-year-old kid. And
oh,
they finally found her in a boat. They finally found her, and she was literally like bobbing her kid up, right? And they grabbed the kid and they turned around to grab her, and she was gone. And one just like so the
Wow.
question is, and this is I love this stuff. The question is, was that it? If they were 1 second later, would they have both drowned? Could she
Wow.
have waited 5 more minutes?
Right.
Because again, her kid's life was ended because they were studying sprinters, right? And bikers, especially people on bikes, and they were doing lactate threshold work and talking about, okay, now go all out. And they would go, okay, that was all out. And they were like, was it really all out? Because what's
mm,
the stakes, right? Like,
Mm.
how hard can you push your body? It's the same
Yeah.
concept of a mom can pick a car up of her kid, right? So
Yes.
back, she's bobbing her kid out of the water, and they were really disappointed they didn't find her body, because what they wanted to do, and if she had passed, was to test what was her lactate, like what was
yeah.
going on in her body, like chemically,
Mm.
and is that what killed her, or did she actually drown? Like what was it, right? Like what, and how long could you hang on when again someone else's life, because her life obviously she didn't care about, it was her kid, right? And
Mm.
that was
Right.
what she was living for.
Yeah.
And so it's just this interesting, what is the body capable of doing? What are we capable? So when they were testing these, sprinters on their bikes, and, okay, we did all out. They're like, well, how about for $100? Could you go all out? Well, how about for a
Mm.
Mm,
thousand dollars? How about for $10,000? Like how much harder can you go when you start upping that reward, or upping the ante?
Right.
Okay, your kid's in danger. How
Mhm.
hard can you go now? And so all of a sudden you find these extra gears. And so we
Yeah.
all have this self-governor, right? Of oh, it burns, my lungs burn, my legs burn. And it's a safety mechanism, because there is a point of pushing yourself too hard and going, too hard. And as you get more fit, you can keep pushing that threshold a little bit more and get more comfortable with it. But
Mm.
back to, we're stronger than we think we are.
Yeah.
mm,
And so again, when I give someone a 40-pound dumbbell, they have no problem with it. If you put your luggage over the overhead compartment, it's so normal. Oh, the guy behind me's putting his luggage up, she's putting her luggage up. I'm going to put my, you don't think about
yeah.
it. But in the gym, for some reason, we all have this, I shouldn't say we all, most women have this, anything over 10 to 15 pounds is too heavy and I'm going to get hurt.
Yeah. It's so
Mm,
interesting too, because I remember too when you had told me when we first started working together, I need you to get up to like 80 to 100 pound dumbbells. And I thought she was on crack.
I remember talking with you about that.
I was
Just
like, that is
that
so
agita was like,
funny.
ooh, yeah.
And but coach said to do it, like I'm gonna go do it, of course.
Yeah.
And because I'm a hard worker. I can push, I can grind, but even I was like, I am this little thing. How am I ever going to row a 70 or 80 pound dumbbell? And then when I first did it, I was like, oh. And then
Mm,
like it does something to your also the way that you think about yourself, to when way you think about your own strength. And what I will say, when you were telling the story, Lisa, about this mom in the water, there is something about when there is like a relationship connected with it. Because I remember the first time I had to do my 1 rep max for the deadlift, and what I could do by myself versus when Lisa was on Zoom on the other end.
mm,
That was like the first time I did it, like a big 1 rep max for myself. And it was more than I had ever imagined I could ever lift up. And that wasn't even close to it when I was doing it myself. And so there was something else there in that coaching relationship, really, whatever relationship it is, where it was like, oh, she believes that I can do this. Why don't I
Hmm.
believe I can do this? And then you start to believe you can do it. It was amazing, crazy.
Two things I'd love to jump in about relative to that. Nick, you just talked about doing it on Zoom. And and Lisa, the vast majority of what you do isn't even in person with people. You're doing it and you're creating these relationships with people and you're creating these connections and you're supporting people and you're nurturing them. Nick, you in your introduction, you had talked about how nurturing Lisa was, which I think that really it comes out while you're speaking. And I think that the ability to be able to make that kind of connection with someone not in person is is unbelievable. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, what this culture of having coaches and mentors and whatnot over the internets via Zoom, like how have you used that to your advantage? Where have there been some parts that have also been a little bit sticky? Like how is it hard? Because it seems like you're doing it. It seems like you're completely able to make people feel like they're connected to you, even though they're just seeing you through a screen.
It's interesting that you say that because I feel like that's something I mega struggle with.
Mm.
I
Wow.
yeah, I really like working with people in person. Like how many times I watch videos, Nick, of you that I'm just like, I wish I was in person with you because there's
Yeah.
You're like,
so
I want
many
to get
things
my hands
I
on
want to get my
you.
hands on you. And so I really actually want to travel. There's another client that I have that lives really close to you, and I'm dying to get something in the books to come out there to get my hands on both of them.
Mm.
And because there's so many things, I'm very much into biomechanics and the way that the body moves, and I can see things. I used to ride horses back in the day, and so body
Mm.
movement and looking at movement, right? When you look at a horse and you're looking at where they're lame, you're looking at their shoulders and their hips, right? And where there's discrepancy, so it's like if their foot is hurt, you can actually see it
Like
through
a
their.
chiropractor does
Yeah,
when you're
yeah.
face down in the face cradle.
You
It's the
got
same
it.
thing.
Yeah. And so when the horse is limping, and you're like, oh, they're limping. You can see it through again their shoulders and their hips, right?
Mm.
So when you're looking at the top of the horse and the way that their head is bobbing and the way that their shoulders and hips are moving, that's how you know what leg is hurt. And so it's not actually looking at the leg. You're not looking at their legs. You're looking at the whole system to try to figure out what's wrong. And so um, looking at the human body kind of the same way of like I can see that someone is not using their glute or they're not in their quad or they're putting all the pressure in their lower back like based on how their body is moving. And
Mm.
so it's really helpful for me to be able to like push their shoulder forward, push their hip back, push their knee into a certain spot and be like, do you feel that? And then once you feel it forever. Like once you, oh, these aha moments.
Mhm.
Oh, that's where I'm supposed to be. Oh, okay. And so I want to give people that sooner because I can do that sooner in person versus online. But thank goodness for online because I get to connect with such wonderful people all over the place. So I'm very
Mm.
grateful for my ability to be able to Zoom and to be able to make these connections. And so, I'm thankful for that. It's really helpful to be able to jump on a Zoom with somebody. And I think
Mm.
that's a superpower when someone, again, but they have to set aside time. And so it's back to that. The client that
Sure.
wants quick, easy, fast, it's easy. It's only 15 minutes. They don't want to commit to having a Zoom. They don't want to, back up and relearn and have to do that whole thing. And so it's really clients that want to dig deep and really
Mm.
do the deep dive stuff. I love working with, and it's like, man, I could spend 3 hours on a Zoom call with someone
Mhm.
correcting form.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Well,
so, yeah.
what's so interesting, not crazy, but what's so interesting though, is that you can see those nuances. You can. I'm not saying
Yeah.
everybody who does coaching virtually can. Lisa can see those nuances in your body virtually, like nobody I have ever met. Like literally, she can see something in my, like the smallest muscle tendon that isn't right, that she gives me a metaphor or an analogy and said, think about it like this. I want you to do this. And then once I do it, you feel it like you feel something
mm.
lock in. And so there is this ability that you have, Lisa, I think, to kind of like just zoom right in, no pun intended, to where what the body is doing that's slightly off. It requires different angles. It requires, like, we've spent hours on Zoom together. I literally send her videos every day of the week. This has
Mm.
been for now almost 2 years she
And I
received.
ask
That's
for more.
incredible.
I ask for more. I'm like, I need
That's
video of this.
incredible.
I need video of this because I
Yeah.
also know that if she's doing one thing wrong, I shouldn't say wrong, but if she's doing one thing one way, she's probably doing something else the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I request certain videos. It may seem so basic, right? Where it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you want to see my stupid, Romanian deadlift? Like I've done a million Romanian deadlifts. So what do you want to see about my? What I want to see is your lat engagement, what you do with your elbows in your Romanian deadlift, right? So it's like I want to see these certain things because I'm seeing something in a squat or I'm seeing something somewhere where I want to change, tweak, turn, or challenge. So there's a million ways to skin a cat. There's a million ways to do a Romanian deadlift. There's a million different tools to do it. And there's a million different ways to engage different things to change the angle to hit different target points, right? Which we kind of see on Instagram. People are like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. I'm like, there is no wrong. There's a million different ways to do
Yeah.
something. And so, and I think that's another thing that I'd want to talk about at some point is this right and wrong situation. And I think it intimidates especially women more than men because we get it in a gym setting where a man will walk up and be like, listen, sweetheart, that's not how you do that, and we're like, oh, help me, I don't know what I'm doing, and so it's this whole weird, dynamic that happens in a gym setting where the gym bro, and I think it deters women from going to the gym and lifting weights because they're so afraid of doing it wrong and everyone's looking at me and they're looking at me doing it wrong and I feel dumb. But if this empowers anyone, this is the advice that I'm going to give you. There is no wrong, right? There's some universal
Yeah.
truths that, you can get hurt. So, but I had someone kind of say to me, I was doing a good morning, and I think they thought I was doing something else. I don't know. But a good morning is a hinge. We have a barbell on your back, right? I was doing barbell good mornings to strengthen my erectors, right? It strengthens your back muscles. And they were trying to like give me advice. And I'm like, you don't know my injury history. You don't know my goals. You don't know my
Mm.
body. You don't know what I'm doing. You have no idea. So I don't know why you're talking to me. So there's that because I can do a sumo good morning. I could do a conventional good morning. I could do a hybrid stance good morning. I could do a good morning with a safety squat bar. I could do a good morning with a barbell. I could do a high bar. I could do a low bar. I could be doing three-quarter, like a half range of motion. You don't know what I'm doing. And the way
Mm.
that I bend and how straight my knees are or how bent my knees are will target different parts of my body. So so for anyone out there who's like intimidated to go to the gym, like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing a bent over row the right way. Well, you could do a bent over row with your torso tall, your torso mid, your torso completely bent over. You could pull to your lower hip bone. You could pull to your rib cage. You could have your elbow tucked in. You could have your elbow flared out. And each way you do that targets a different muscle. So it's one of
Mm.
those things where don't ever listen to someone telling you some random advice from some random Joe Schmo in a gym. Okay. Don't ever like, unless
That's
that
super good
person,
advice.
yes, unless that person is a certified coach who is trying to do you a favor by helping you, which doesn't ever, no one is really out there walking around giving people favors. Okay. So if you're a coach, you're getting paid by the hour. So I'm just going to put this in perspective.
Yep.
I'm a coach. If I go to a gym, guess what I'm not doing?
Coaching
Working,
anybody who
working.
is not paying you.
I am not
Time's
working for
money,
anyone
baby.
who is not paying me. So I am not like my job isn't to walk around and correct everyone's form in a gym. Okay. That's not my job. And back to the point of I don't know their training history. I don't know their goals. I don't know their injury. I don't know any of that. So unless I'm again seeing something really dangerous where I'm like that person's going to get hurt, I will step in, but that's very rarely the case. And so the person coming up to you to give you some free unsolicited advice probably isn't a certified coach and they're probably just trying to either chat you up, right, or try to show off. I don't know what they're doing. Make make themselves feel bigger, you feel smaller, whatever their point is. But just go in there and be in your zone and just know that there really is a million ways to do something. And again, whether your torso is more upright or more bent over, you're pulling your elbow in tight or flaring it out to hit the rear delt or to hit the lower lat, you're in the friggin' gym training. That's badass. And keep freaking
Mm-hmm.
showing up and being in the gym training, you badass motherfucker. Like, don't let anyone stop you, especially Joe Schmo with his Skechers and his, freaking lifting gloves on. Don't let that guy talk to you. Okay. Don't listen. Put your earbuds in and act like, what? Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, sir.
That's the
On
other
the
reason I love Lisa.
Well, on
Yeah.
the heels of badass motherfucker, I'd like to transition to something else that I'm sensing so much, and it's this. I want to talk about being a mom and
Yeah.
being a coach and being a trainer and the balance and also how you approach your clients, because so many of the things that you have talked about, the language that you have to use, the breaking down of stereotypes, the showing up, the connectivity, whether you're in a room with somebody or not, whether you've got littles or you have older kids, or even in spousal relationships, it's all about language, right? It's all about how we approach something and how we show up. There seems to be so much of an understanding that you exude about the people that you're working with. You're seeing things from different sides, and you're trying to meet them where they're at. How old are your kids, and like what are the similarities between speaking with them and speaking and with
With
these
me.
clients? With Nick, what's it like talking to Nick as you help try to instill confidence and and goal setting and showing up? I mean, there's a lot of connectivity there. How does that show
Yeah,
up for you?
that's a really, really, really great question. Very loaded. Um, so my very much in myself, I hate. It's a pet peeve of mine, and it's something that I've always held myself accountable to. And I'll tell you a funny story about that in a second. I hate victim mentality. I hate it. Like it's like a
Mm,
thing that like just gets
yeah,
my skin going.
yeah.
And I have to be more careful with relationships in my life where I'm listening and
Mm.
versus problem solving. I know that people talk about men doing that a lot, where they're like, your husband doesn't need to fix your problem, he just needs to listen to it. I'm like, I think I'm the man in my relationship with my husband. So I am very much a problem solver. I hate victim mentality, and it's gotten me in trouble. Okay, I'm gonna
Mm,
just be very, eating disorder stuff. Right when I was younger, and it was like I hated my body. I hated my body, and I was fat. I was fat. I'm fat. I'm fat. I'm fat. Until one day I was like, no more. You're so annoying that I can't stand listening to you. I can't stand listening to myself. Okay, so do something about it. Do something. And again, I went a little too far, right? I went in down anorexia road, but into the paleo diet, into restrictive eating, into which we now know is called orthorexia, where you're obsessed with the cleanness of food, which really isn't a thing, and what other people are doing. And you can see this in other
mm,
people. You can around people who you are around, where they're obsessed with what they eat and being clean and pure, and also what you were doing and what you are eating and what you eat is clean and pure. And
mm.
they judge you, and it's an eating disorder.
Overtly, or the judging, like they think it or they say it out loud?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, where
Okay.
they, the people who try to put their stuff on you. Are like, oh,
Sure.
you should be eating,
Yep.
that's what you're,
Yeah.
oh, aren't you gluten for, you eat processed foods, and you shouldn't eat processed foods. And do you know how many dyes are in that? And do you know the additives? And they start putting their stuff on you. And, like,
Yeah.
what are you can do what you want to do, but why are you judging what I'm doing? So, and so
Right.
that is a thing. There's an eating disorder. And it's
Mm,
orthorexia. If anyone's, ever dealing with someone in their life that's, doing that, or,
Mhm.
it's a thing. And, it's interesting, if you wanted to look it
mm,
up. But anyway, I just don't like victim mentality. And so that's where the harsh, hard, honest self-assessment comes into play. And kind of back to that funny story I was going to say is, I was in therapy, and I love therapy. I'm very much into therapy. I got diagnosed with OCD a few years ago. I went into extensive therapy for it. Best thing I ever did in my whole life, changed my whole life for the better. I love talking about it.
Mhm.
But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But when they were in there, I'm very judgmental, and I was like, because that's just how it is for me. You have a problem, find the problem, fix the problem. This is a problem, fix it, do something about it. I'm very proactive. And they were like, well, don't don't you be a little more gentle? They were talking about being more gentle with myself. They're like, why don't you talk to yourself like you would talk to your friends? And I was like,
mm.
it's exactly what I was saying to my friends.
That's
What are
exactly
you
right.
talking about? Like, if I had a client, I would tell them the exact same freaking thing. I have no, like, I am very much, let's fix it. You have a problem, let's fix it. Let's find the problem, fix the problem. And they were like, oh, like, you need to be more gentle with yourself. I was like, you know,
Like, and other people too, apparently. That's
yeah,
what they thought, at
I
least.
was just dying. I was like, you're probably right. I probably need to be more. But I am that friend that will tell you, and I'm not rude, but I will tell
Yeah.
you gently, right? Like, hey, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought
Mm,
about that? Why don't we find a solution? I'll listen to you, but
mm,
I do like to, I don't like to enable people to sit in the suck. I'm like,
yeah.
let's find a way out of the suck,
Mm,
right? Let's
And
do
I
something.
think
Let's
that's
make a
a
change.
Yeah, and I think that's the marker of a good friend too, who's willing to say the
Yeah.
hard things and
Yeah.
knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable. And when you're just saying all of the things that you were saying, Lisa, what it also brought up for me is one of the things that I have appreciated so much and what's been so influential for me particularly in midlife, and you've come to this early at 37 years old, is that like you say the thing, right? You say the thing, and yeah, maybe you've had to massage it and learn how to deliver it depending on who your client or your friend is, but you say the thing. And that has been, and it's something that Heather and I laugh about sometimes. Like, you've helped me to access that part of myself that for so many years was so quiet. Like, I have been a person who's very kind of, I'm together. I'm very steady. I am very, clinical. There's a funny story about that we can talk about at some point. But you have brought out in me my inner. I like to call her my inner crass ass. Not that you're always crass, but you are crass but honest. Like, you just say the thing. And that, I think, is so important also for women to feel comfortable saying the thing. And particularly as Jen and I are in this midlife, part of our life, we're like starting to embody that more. And
Hmm.
like, good on you for fucking doing it at 37.
Well,
Absolutely.
I've been that way my
Absolutely.
whole life, and it's been one of those things where, where I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I'm not from Utah. I'm living in Utah, and it's something that I really struggle with being here because
Mm,
my clientele back in Michigan love it. They love the
the blunt.
militant style of training. They
Yeah.
love the bluntness, pushing hard, being badass, like, let's go, like, say how you feel how you say it. Like, I was more embraced. Being out here, everyone calls me like really hardcore. Oh, I'd bring my sister
Mm.
in, but I don't know if she would, um, you
Mm.
know, not like you. Like, it was like, I don't know if she could be able to handle it. They wouldn't
Respond well
handle
to
it.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they couldn't
Yeah.
handle the way that you. And I'm like, handle. And by the way, being out here, I have softened myself by 95%.
Mm.
I'm not even close to near even 50% of how I used to coach. Okay. So like I've like that. And I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Like, I just don't if I say to someone like, oh, I think that we've got a little bit of a weak lat. I think that adding some lat work in would be a good idea. That sentence right there is hardcore and too intense out here in
Wow.
Utah. Yeah. And so I'm
Wow.
like, I don't know how I can
So
soften that
you're
any more than I
constantly
just
trying to
softened it.
figure out.
I'm
Yeah.
constantly trying to soften myself. But my problem is out here where the society with women, back to like the patriarch, very much very religious here.
Sure.
It's women, you know, just smile and never ruffle any feathers. And so I'm all about ruffling feathers. I'm like, but how do you, but at
Yeah.
least with me, you know exactly where you stand. You know
Yes.
exactly what I think. You know how I feel. You're never questioning what I'm saying. You're never questioning whether I'm telling the truth. Like, I'm just very much, you see what you get what you see. I'm very transparent. I love sharing my story because my biggest goal in my whole life is to hopefully help someone not do or deal with what I dealt with, or at least not feel alone if
Mm.
they are dealing with it. Like,
Mm.
I've been there, I've dealt with it, I've done that too. But there's a way out, there's light, there's a solution. We can change things. So you don't feel like you're drowning alone, um, having to live like this. Like, but when I got diagnosed with OCD, I kind of thought you could fix it or take a pill for it. Like, I was avoiding taking medication, thinking I was avoiding kind of the solution. I'm going to do the work to not have to medicate. And they're like, well, there isn't a
Mm.
pill for it. And I was like, what? They're like, well, you
Like
just have to
what?
manage it for the rest of your life. And it changes and morphs as you get, as you only have OCD about what you care about. So as you go through your life, things will change. I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
what? So it was one of those things where it was like, cool, I'm going to manage this thing for the rest of my life. And there really isn't a magic pill to fix it. And so it's just a constant self work.
Mm.
And I'm just like, let's go. And they're like, we've never met anyone who's been like this into this exposure-based therapy, which is what I did. But I'm just
Yeah.
like, let's go. Like, I'm in. I'm gonna be all in, and I'm gonna go 100%. And I'm gonna
Mm.
go all out. And I want to fully, get everything I can out of this stuff. And anyone who just isn't, I don't understand why why avoid the hard, why not go through the hard stuff? Because again, it's changed my life in such an amazing way. Same thing with lifting, same thing with strength training. It's like when I go into something and I go in hard and I push myself hard and I do all this really hard stuff,
Mm.
it's so empowering. Like being
Mhm.
strong is so empowering. Walking around being like, yeah, like I can handle my my business, right? Like I am a lot
Yeah.
strong. When I was pregnant, people would try to like, help me and like carry my bags or carry my groceries. And I'm like, no, I'm good. They're like, no, let me
She's
help you.
like,
I was
I
like,
can carry you.
yeah, I'm literally like, dude, I just deadlifted 300 pounds like 10 minutes ago. Like I can't let you carry my groceries. Like it's not
Yeah,
like I
Right.
can't, you really, and when I say I don't need it, I'm good. Like, so it's so nice to feel that way that I can rearrange my house if I wanted to. And to feel physically strong and to know that I can get through hard stuff. It's just
Yeah.
so empowering and it enriches your life so much to be able
Mm.
to know that you can get through stuff and that
Mm,
you can do hard stuff and that you're strong and that you're stronger than you think you are. It's it's just I want to share that with people. I want to help people find that in themselves. I want to inspire and if I talk about my accomplishments and again, which I have a hard time with, um,
Mhm.
imposter syndrome, all that stuff. It's like, but because I don't want someone to think I'm braggarty because I'm not braggarty. It's more of a, dude, if I can do it, you can. Because I'm not special. Nothing
Mm.
special about me. I don't have a superpower, right? I
how
just
does somebody have imposter syndrome who has accomplished
I don't
what you
know.
have?
I gotta dig deeper into that because I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
why I have such a hard time talking about it as if I didn't earn it.
Yeah.
And it's like but when
Well,
I
we could
think
ask
about
our
it,
PhD. We could,
there
part
you
of
go.
part of
Tell me
part
what's
of
wrong with me.
why we do this. We're a therapist and a journalist, and as Nick
Yeah.
said in your intro about how
Mhm.
passionate you are about relationships and relating to people, Nick, like why when someone has the accolades that this human has, why is it hard for us to own the things that are proven, printed, and lauded about us?
Yeah, I think there are so many reasons why, right? You've heard me say this, analogy, Jen, over the years, that if we search always for the why, we're going to be going on a fishing expedition because there are so many reasons why that
Yeah,
happens, whether it be from family of origin dynamics, whether it be from how we're socialized as women, from
yeah.
like so many different things, I think influence that. And I think particularly as women, that comes up a lot. I remember that coming up for me as a professor, and I'm standing in front of a group of students teaching them at this point in their lives how to be a therapist. And some of the people in my classes were, at the time, I was in my 20s and they were in their 60s. And who am I to be teaching them how to be a therapist? So there was serious imposter syndrome. And I think also time and wisdom and
Mm,
experience also kind of help with that. So,
mm.
at almost 50, I that part of me, like I went through that for so long, similar to what you were saying, Lisa, about like the eating disorder and that voice and things like that. At some point, you get tired of it.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah,
get tired of it. And it's just like, oh, no queen, no queen,
yeah.
no more of that.
Yeah.
So I do
My
think that,
mom calls it changing the dance, right?
yeah.
Tiny says, like, change the dance. If you're tired of
Change.
seeing something, be the way that it's going to be. But that's hard.
But I think we also, as women, and I think if you kind of read certain people's work and things like that, we have been told to be small, right?
Oh,
We have
sure.
been encouraged to be small, to
Yeah.
not take up space. And when you're encouraged to be small and not take up space, then of course, talking about your accomplishments is taking up space. And that's
Yeah.
the antithesis of what we've been taught. So I do think there's a huge social, cultural, contextual piece that comes into play for us as women.
Mm,
I,
mm,
I totally agree with that. And back to what you were saying with even having kids and how to change that dynamic and soften, right? But that was probably the biggest change for me, softened me the most was having my
mm,
children
Mhm.
and learning how to give myself grace. And one of the biggest problems that I had was, and Nick, I don't know if you ever, guys, either one of you, Jen, too, where I was always afraid of grace or I don't like excuses, right? I'm all about problem solving. The word I'm searching for is if you if you give yourself being indulgent, so where it's like, oh,
Mm,
I'm gonna have a bite of ice cream, like I'm gonna, indulge, and what the difference between, self-care and indulgence. So for
Mm,
me, I was always worried that if I let myself slip, if I sat and actually it was a body worker who was working on me, and she was like, do you ever slow down? This is a part of my life where things were just kind of a little
mm,
out of control. And she goes, do you ever slow down? Do you ever sit down and just, and I'm like, no. And she was like, are you afraid you won't get back up? And I was like,
mm.
yeah,
Whoa.
that's totally, yes.
dude, like,
Yeah,
yes. Like, I am so afraid that if I stop, I won't be able
yeah.
to restart because I am so tired and so fatigued and so burnt out and so cortisol driven that if I don't stop, I will, I won't be,
Girl.
if I rest.
Yep.
So I think that after having my first son, because that whole pregnancy was brutal, but I was really hard on myself. It was like and I was still in that orthorexia place where I'm like, I couldn't, I one time, I think I had like an entire Costco thing of cherries. Like I ate so much fruit. I was eating so much fruit, and all I wanted was a soda, right? I wanted like juice and soda so bad. I could aversion to water. I couldn't look at
Mm,
water, couldn't drink water. I
Wow.
couldn't look at a glass of water. Ugh, I couldn't. Water, thanks. That's great.
Yeah,
But of
that's
course,
really
I was
great.
like
can't
obsessed with
even
clean
imagine.
eating. Yeah, clean eating. So I couldn't touch a soda, right? And so, but I was wanted fruit, and I ate so much fruit, and I was so scared I was giving my baby gestational diabetes. I was convinced or
Wow.
that I was giving myself gestational diabetes. I was giving my baby diabetes. Like I
Yeah.
was so scared of that from fruit. So like God for I eat a pint of ice cream. Like that wasn't even on my
From
radar. I
fruit.
was scared of fruit. Okay. That's where I
Yeah.
was at mentally, just to give you perspective.
Yeah.
And it's just, I was so hard on myself for not working out enough and not, I was doing 2 workouts a day or 3 workouts a day. And I would, to break it down to
Mm,
two and then one. And I was lazy. And, everything I did wasn't good enough. And I promised myself in my second pregnancy, I wouldn't do that. I
Mm.
promised because my baby was healthy and I was healthy and I had a great, pregnant. I was very lucky. And so I thought to myself, God, why were you so bashing yourself in the side of the head for every step of that whole miracle of life, dude? Like, what?
yeah.
You're building a baby, and I'm coaching other women. You're building this baby, and be gentle with yourself. And I'm, it's sitting there just bashing myself upside the head about it. And I promised myself I wouldn't do that with my second, and I didn't. I
Mm.
let myself
Mm.
just be in it. I was like, be in it, be in it. You're fine. Still do the
Had
stuff,
you
keep
started your
walking.
therapy for OCD at
No,
that point?
it was before that, but it was shortly after that that I went into treatment for it.
Mm.
Wow.
Because I just was sick of it. You know what I mean? I was just so, why am I doing this? And storytelling and so I was much gentler on myself with my second pregnancy, and I had a way better recovery. It was even better than the first. It was healthier and better than the first. And so, I
It's
really
amazing that
thought,
you did that on your own. I don't mean to interrupt,
oh yeah, I
but
mean,
like
it was,
that's truly incredible that you were able to almost reparent your process,
Mm.
completely reconnoiter it the second time without the help of anybody else. And you also noticed the difference, obviously. You just said that, but
yeah,
it's incredible.
thanks. It
Mm.
was, yeah, it was, I committed to like making that change. I'm like, you gotta, this didn't serve you, it doesn't serve your kids
Yeah.
either. And so
Yeah.
my kids are definitely a thing where they make me want to really grab on and change things because I want to
Mm.
change things for them. Like they're everything to me. Like they are my
How old are they now?
5 and 8.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have a 16-year-old stepson as well. So I've been a step parent
Wow.
since he was 5. And
Yeah,
so
the
it's
thing
like,
too about when also what I love, we're talking about you as a mom that I get to see outside of the Instagram and stuff like that. But you also do show up and you're honest about the challenges of being a mother, right? Like when you just want to like go into the closet and close the door, turn off all the lights so nobody can find you, right?
well, my OCD stuff, which again, I'm so glad that I got diagnosed with it because I can understand it so much better. And there's so much misinformation about OCD, which I think we're starting to untangle.
Mhm.
And so, but I'm realizing all the places it bleeds over, right?
Mm.
And so from being overstimulated, my husband is now, because now he understands me better that I have
Mm.
this diagnosis. He gets it instead of thinking things are an attack on him, where he's like,
Mm.
oh, you're overwhelmed. And so it's like my house is
Mm.
mess and clutter. That's one knock. And then
Yeah.
it's like kids are loud. That's knock two. I'm sore from a really heavy training session. Knock three. I've got 5 programs I need to write, knock 4. So all of a sudden I'm, I was at 100%, I'm at 80%, I'm at 70%, I'm at 40%, I'm at 20%. You can't not show up for your kids. Like that's not, so
Yeah.
again, thank God I'm strong and thank God that that I can do those things, but it's like realizing that I'm limited, right?
Mhm.
My capacity is limited, and to not take it out on my kids because it is not their fault that I'm
Mhm.
overstimulated. It's not their fault that I'm on a 2, right? Because of my house is dysregulated. I'm triggered because someone said they had the stomach flu, so I'm triggered. So that's taking up 60% of my brain space. And it's like I
Right.
have all these, because we all have different triggers, but I have all these different brain spaces. And when one thing is out of whack, and then you have this other, all these different things taking over you, to have tools. And that is what the exposure-based therapy was for me, was understanding these different tools to when to use them and how to let things go and how to move on and how to get out of your looping and all that stuff. And that's exercise is one of those ways for me to manage my
Mm.
brain. It helps me untangle my brain movement and
Mhm.
breathing and things like that. But learning how to give myself grace. So back to that concept of indulgent and self-care. So that was one of the things that we addressed in therapy, and kind of understanding there's a difference between
Yeah.
those two things. So
Mm.
you can have self-care, but that is different than indulging, because my thing was there's a slippery slope. If I let one thing slide, then I'm going to let everything slide. I'm going to fall apart and everything's
Mhm.
ruined, right? If you stop, you'll never get back up. It's like, so just
Mhm.
don't ever stop. Like, no, that's right. There's a difference. And I think that understanding the difference between self-care and indulgence was really important for me to be
Mhm.
able to make sure that my needs are met and I'm taking care of myself, and also, know that it doesn't mean I'm going to lose everything just because I'm able to, give in a little bit. Because like I said before, when
Mm.
you do one thing is how you do everything. It's
Mhm.
like, well, you can take that to like the next level where now you're living your life so regimented and so intensely. And if someone throws off your schedule, you lose, you lose everything. And so there's this, you have to have that little bit of give and take. And so being an athlete, being a mom, being a business owner, and wearing that many hats, God bless, if you don't learn how to balance that out a little bit, like you will
Yeah.
fall apart. You can't
Yeah.
do all those things all the time.
Mhm. How do you give yourself grace? Like, what does that actually look like for you?
I think I've had this back and forth with my husband, believe it or not, where we talk about, he's like, why don't you go get your nails done? Why don't you do something for yourself today and go get your nails
It's the
done?
universal, mani pedi is the universal answer to, relaxation,
And
right? For
so,
for
yeah,
all women. You
yeah,
have breasts, go get your nails done. All
yeah.
right.
And I died because bless him, like he's trying to help. He's, he's
It's
sweet and he's
adorable.
very much my support system. So I'm just ragging on him. He couldn't be a better partner. But when he says it, and I'm like, but the funny part is, so interesting you ask, it's different on different days, different times.
Mm.
And so one thing that I learned was that to learn when what you need and how to lean into that, because sometimes it's actually calling a girlfriend and bullshitting on the phone. That's one of my like
Yeah.
favorite um unwindy fun, like is a brain relax for me. It's a recharge. It fills my buckets. I love it. Like I love getting on the phone and bullshitting, gabbing about nothing on a little walk. That's like my favorite thing. Getting
Hmm.
sun is mega important for me. I got to get out in the sun
Yeah.
exposure at least 20 to 30 minutes a day, at least. More is better.
Mm.
And that, but also knowing when I need quiet. I'm a person who needs like to not be spoken to, talk to someone. Like I need the quiet too. So there's some like, so knowing when to plug and play, like knowing
Mm.
yourself enough to know, like I'm overstimulated and you know, um, too much noise, too much stimulation, too much talk, too much work. I need quiet. And so I've actually like left my
Mm.
phone and gone on a walk. There's times where I need to talk to someone.
Mhm.
There's times where I need to go out and have a drink.
Mhm.
Like that might be, I hardly ever drink, but every once in a while, like I
Mhm.
drink maybe like once a month, once every 2 to 3 months.
Mhm.
And it's like that might be a thing where I need to get out of the freaking house and break up my routine.
Mm.
So it's like kind of knowing, where to plug and play what your thing is, because depending on if you're an
Mm.
introvert or extrovert, depending on how tired you are, maybe it's a nap, maybe it's
Mhm.
maybe it's taking yourself to lunch, by yourself where you can sit and watch a TV show and eat a meal by yourself. And
Hmm.
have you ever ugly eaten? You ever been so hungry when you ugly eat?
Oh, yeah.
Where you just like hover over a plate and you're like
Yes,
shit
you
is all over
shovel
your
it.
face and you're like breathing like and you're
Yes,
just like
snot's coming out of your
yeah.
nose.
And my
Yeah.
husband's like tried to like come and talk to me and I'm like, "Mwah." Like it's like food's falling out. I have it in both hands across my face. And I'm just like, go away. Like I don't want you in here. I don't want you watching this. Don't
Mm.
watch me. I'm like
Yeah.
hoarding my food. I don't want to share my food with you. I don't want you watching me do
Mm.
this. Like get out of
Mm.
here. I
Yeah.
want to watch my trashy 90 Day Fiance and inhale,
Mm.
I
food.
love that.
Leave me alone. So it's
Yeah.
like
And
figuring out kind of what that is and when to do that to recharge your batteries because we all need that. We all need that. And I think as a mom, that's when I fall short as I try to give my kids so much and do
yeah.
everything they want all the time and not say no and make sure they have fun and make sure they're happy. And then all of a sudden I haven't eaten, I haven't drinking anything. I'm not working. I fall secondhand and then I'm angry. I'm angry and I snap at them and I'm sitting there and I'm like, why am I so agitated with these
Mm,
two beautiful, wonderful little humans who don't need that? And so if I don't take care of myself, I'm not a good
mhm.
mom to them.
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
I'm not patient, I'm not kind, and I'm not fun. And mind you, that's not our job all the time as mom to be fun.
Right.
But I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to laugh with my kids, and I don't want them to feel guilt and shame, and I don't want them to feel like they can't ask me something because I'm snapping at them because, I'm overstimulated. That's not fair.
Yeah.
And so it's this, it's very important for me to make sure that I stay on top of it. And I'm not doing it.
Mm.
Every morning I wake up and I leave the house and I go on a walk. It's like my thing because I love quiet time in the morning. And if I miss that, I'm kind of dysregulated. And so it's like it's important
Mm.
for me to make sure that I'm finding that time in the day that I'm taking care of myself so I can show up for
So
them.
sounds like you also have a partner who absolutely meets you where you're at, loves you, supports you, understands the nuance, and he's there for you, which that's a blessing in and of
Well,
itself.
I want to normalize too marital issues
Mm.
because we've
Mm.
been through it. We've been through, and
Mhm.
when you talk to your grandparents and they're like, marriage is so hard, like, it's work. And you're like, yeah, okay, I know. And you get, just no, marriage is hard. And you're like, I know. And then we all get married anyway. And we're listening to that advice, but not really. But I want to know why. Both my grandparents, all my grandparents have passed.
Mm.
I
Mm.
wish I could go back and be like, can you tell me some of the stuff that you went through? Like, can you just
Mm.
share and can we normalize staying in relationships when things are hard? Because I feel like we've
Yeah.
gotten into a place in society where it's almost praised to leave. It's almost
Mm.
like,
Mm.
yeah, screw that. Like if, there's an issue, you get divorced and you move on and you're strong. There's nothing wrong with leaving,
Yeah.
but there's also nothing wrong with staying and trying to figure things out. Mind you, there's,
Yeah.
re- I say that with
All the
reason to
Sure.
leave
caveats.
and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want to
We
get
get
into
it.
abuse and
Yep.
things like that. But my point just being like, we've been through it. Like we've gotten through some tough, tough stuff. And we just actually had this conversation the other day where he's like, I have never been happier. And we've
Oh,
never been in a
Oh.
better place. And I am so lucky that I have you. And I feel seen and I feel heard and we're in this totally different place. But he's like, I think it's because we've been through so much. And we've
Mm.
been through so many hardships and so much up and down through we've been together 9 years, we've been together 10 years, married 9 years. And it's like, when we look back on what we've been through, I do think it's the reason our bond is so strong and that there's something about looking at each other. I mean, like we both decided to be here. We both have
yeah.
made the
Yeah.
decision to be here and show up for each other and continue to show up for each other and change to
Mm-hmm.
make
Yeah.
ourselves better and each other
Yeah.
better. And
Yeah.
we had this argument the other day. It was the most beautiful argument. Nick, you would have been so proud if you were sitting in the room. Because I'm like, I don't feel like you heard what I was saying. And he was like, this is what I heard. And I was like, that's not what I meant. He's like, well, anyway, I'm like, no, can I re-explain it? I want you to understand where I'm coming from and how I
Mm.
feel. And I did. And then he was like, that makes sense to me. It's
You
not
should have
how I meant it.
recorded that. That's
Sounds
like
I
so
poster,
know.
small.
I
like
was like,
Way
we
to
just got
go.
everything was I
Like
statements and
therapy
feel,
win.
and it was like I was like, we just did a thing, and at the end I checked out, and he was still talking, and he was telling me how much he loved me and how I'm
Oh,
this beautiful woman and how I'm this badass and I have all these passions, and he thinks it's so cool that I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm also this great mom, and our dynamic is so wonderful, and I'm like. checked out. I'm OCD'd somewhere. And I like got up and I was like, whoops, see you later, and walked out of the room. And I was just not
Oh,
home. I was thinking
yeah.
about other stuff, kids' dinner, whatever. And he came upstairs and I was like, uh-oh, I can tell something's wrong. I'm like, what's wrong? He actually told me. He's
Oh,
like, is also
wow.
a nuts. And I'm like,
Mm,
nothing. And then like, 6 weeks later, bring it up. He told me what was wrong. And then we had this amazing conversation. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He was like, you just kind of like left. And I said all this nice stuff to you and you just walked out of the room. And I looked him in the face and I was like, I am so sorry. I love you. And I thank you for everything you do for our family. And I gave him a kiss and he was like, thanks for saying that. And I was like, who are we? Like,
right.
this is so cool. But
That's
it
amazing.
was really cool. But it was one of those things where
Mm,
we've both done so much work and it's so cool to see, to reap the benefits of it and to,
yeah.
to be in a place where again, we are very supportive of each other. And I feel very lucky that I have someone who's willing to do the work and instead of being
Yeah.
defensive, like listen and change and it's cool. It's
Well, it's
cool.
kind of like you said, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so what strikes me about you and Rob is that, and this is so connected to both of you being in the strength world, right? So strength comes in this form of like the physical strength that you both embody, but the strength to navigate difficult conversations with one another, to navigate the obstacles that you faced as a married couple, as parents, and all of that kind of stuff. And so to me, it translates so well, you're both being in the strength world and how that plays out in your marriage.
I mean, it's true.
What does
It's
he
like
do, Lisa?
he same thing, same thing. So he's a coach.
Same thing? Okay.
He was
Mm,
a professional fighter, MMA stuff. He did UFC
mm,
stuff, and then he's been coaching for forever. And so
mm,
we have all these very similar things where he does jujitsu. I'm a power lifter, right? So we respect each other's craft. So it's one of those things where he's like,
mm.
I gotta go to jujitsu. And I'm like, duh, yeah, go. Because that's how I feel about my lifting. And when I go lift, yeah, go. Like he knows that it's mega important to me, and I know that that's mega important to him. And so there's a very much of a mutual respect where I do feel sorry for relationships where that is doesn't they don't have that, where one
Yeah.
person's trying to go to the gym and there's a weird jealousy situation going on with the spouse where they're
Yeah.
like, well, you were at the gym all day long, as if it's a selfish thing to go to the
Mm,
gym and train. And people deal with it too, where they let other life things override the gym. Where it's
Mm,
like if they get a client call and they're like, oh, I sure they're in their head, they're like, "Ah, I'm supposed to go to the gym, but like this person needs to get in and okay, and they'll throw the gym's one of the first thing to go out the window. And
yeah.
I'm like, if that was a therapy appointment, a dentist appointment, and any other, you wouldn't be doing that. But because it's the gym, it's like totally fine to throw that out the window because I think there is this underlying selfish, and you see it in families, like on Thanksgiving, for example. If you're like, all right, or Christmas, I'm gonna go to the gym, your family would, what do you mean, you narcissist, selfish. But if you said, I'm going to the bar, I'm going to play golf, I'm
Yeah.
going to the library to read a book, no one would think twice. Like, I'm going to go sit upstairs for an hour and read a book. Oh, watch a show. Oh, go to the movies. No problem. Go to the gym.
mm,
It's like,
Mm,
what's like the gym is my book. The gym is my
mm,
therapy. The gym is where I, go and clear my head. But it's also as important as brushing your teeth. You're taking care of your muscles, which, get big Gabrielle Lyon fan, which is, the biggest organ in the body isn't your skin, it's your muscle. If you don't
mm.
take care of that, you're going to have an issue with aging and
Yeah.
strength and all that stuff. And we can talk about, how many women in your life have you seen fall and break their hip, fall and break their,
Yeah.
ankle? I mean, how many breaks,
Yep.
osteoporosis, a mega big deal. And as we age, it's not only the fact that that bone is going to break, because if you aren't training and you're not weight bearing activity, you're going to get osteoporosis and you're going to increase your chance of bone breaking. But let's double layer it. When you break that bone, are you strong enough to take care of yourself? I went
Yeah.
and to help my mom when she
Mm,
broke her hip, and I will tell you, watching her was a moment I was like, oh, watching her get her body on the couch. Okay, so she can't use her hip flexor because she's had hip surgery. She had to take
mm,
her hands and put her on the couch and tricep extension herself onto the couch and slide her hips, back on to get, and then pick up her leg and put her leg up. That takes strength. And
mm,
how about crutches?
mm,
You break your ankle, you're going to
mm.
be in a wheelchair if you don't have the upper body strength to use crutches. Yeah, so it's all these things where to navigate yourself, to lower yourself onto a toilet is a single leg squat. If you break, if you have a knee surgery.
Mhm.
So, hey, this is a reason why we need to be doing upper body work too. You're supporting yourself on handles, getting up and down off of the toilet, up and off of the couch. Being able to do that stuff and manage your own body weight is mega important.
Yeah.
And so,
Mhm.
skipping the gym, to me, is a non-negotiable. I don't know, we can't be doing that. We can't be treating the gym like a selfish, narcissistic thing that all you care about is how you look. That's not why we're training.
Yeah.
It's a great little addition because you look when you start training and you start lifting, you do look good. And
Mm.
that's what helped me get out of my body image issues. I was mega anorexic and wanted abs. That was my whole thing, was I wanted abs. And I ran and ran and didn't eat and was lifting a little but doing more cardiovascular work, and I
Mm.
still just didn't have the aesthetic that I wanted. And it wasn't until I started strength training where it was like, do I have
Mm.
abs? Like, even with a higher body fat percentage, I had more abs than I did when I was just doing cardiovascular work. And so there's a
Mm.
lot to be said for strength training, for longevity, for aesthetics. It's I think starting it with the right thought process of, I want to live longer, I want to live a healthier life, I want to be more capable, is the
Mm.
way to start training. It's the aesthetic that you get from it that is that positive um,
Yeah.
aftermath of it.
Yeah. Would you say that there's a difference in how you train a woman in her 20s versus how you train somebody like me?
No,
No.
no.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to layer it.
Okay, go.
I wouldn't train a woman any differently than I train a man.
I was going to ask you that.
Mm. Mm.
Now, there are biological differences,
Yeah.
and this is like a pet project of mine that someday will come to fruition. Is a seminar that I love teaching about the differences between men and women in the gym. And what are the differences? Are there any differences? What about training in the menstrual cycle? Like, I want to go into all that, and I want to do a whole seminar on that one day. It's like it will happen. It will come to
Yeah.
fruition at some point. But um, there are differences between men and women biologically and hormonally and psychologically. Okay, so what we need in the gym is different than what men need, whether it's emotional support or community support. But
Mhm.
our bodies respond, um, or not respond, our bodies are different from the get. So knee valgus being one of them, let's just take that because it's super basic. But the width of our hips are wider than men, right? Men are more T-shaped, women are more pear-shaped, right? So with a wider hip, we have something called a knee valgus, where our knee dives inward. Okay, so the
Mhm.
wider your hips are, the more of a knee dive you tend to have. And there was a study done where if you put little girls in a rowboat and little boys in a rowboat, that little boys will row with their knees out and little girls will row with their knees in. And this is, again,
Mm.
not society pressure, not,
Mhm.
it's like from childhood. Okay, so we're different the way that we move. And so
Mhm.
when men and women are studied with ACL tears or knee injuries, they start with running, then running and stopping, running and pivoting. Women blow their knees out by running and stopping. Men blow their knees out when they get to the run and pivot part. So we don't even get to
Mm.
pivoting, is
Oh,
is my
wow.
point. We don't even
Yeah.
get there.
Mm.
So
Mm.
the reason why is we're more hip flexor dominant, men are more quad and glute dominant. Or we're more hip flexor quad dominant, men are more glute dominant. So when we run or sprint and we go to stop, we have our torso upright and we put our front leg out and kind of jam stop. And you
Mhm.
use your hip flexor. Men kind of pitter out and they're more in a squatty position. And so, same thing with jumping. Women, when they jump on a box, their knees dive in and touch. When we jump off a box, our knees dive in. Men are straight or they open.
Mm.
So there's an imbalance in our legs. That's why why is this important? Why do we care? We care because women are losing scholarships left and right because they blow their knee out when before they get to college when they're playing
Mm.
ball. We don't have a strength training program for women like we do for men. So there's things that I like to address like that with women more so than men, right? With that knee dive. So I pay
Got it.
attention to
Yeah.
the knee dive, the knee valgus. It's something that should be paid attention to and should be addressed. And especially any women out there who are listening who have nieces and nephews, daughters, grandchildren, whatever, paying attention to that knee pattern is mega important.
Mhm.
So there's your takeaway for that.
Yeah.
But that's about it. When I pay
Mm.
attention to the difference between how I train men and women, it's,
Mm.
the weights that we use and the way that we train and the training splits and all that are the same.
And I
But
would
Mm.
imagine too, what I've noticed is that it probably is just so specific to the individual, knowing the individual and kind of because I know how I've noticed how you've adjusted my training because of particular weaknesses or because of particular strengths or whatever it is that we're working on that you've noticed, oh, like your shoulder or your lat. And one of the biggest things that like was a aha moment for me as a woman, and not that you do this differently with men or women, was just the strength of my back. Like like I think I had been socialized honestly from a training perspective, like biceps, things like that. And I never thought about my lats or my scaps ever. And you were like, girl, we got to build your back. And I was
So
like,
I'm like
Mm.
Oprah with the back. I'm like, you have a back problem, and you have a weak back, and you have a weak back, and you have a weak back. Every person that I've ever worked with, if you were like, what's the number one thing you see is a weak back, from lats to erectors, right? So it's like from the base of your skull all the way down to your tailbone, and and lat work as far as pull-ups go. And so, and back to that, when you were talking earlier, I wanted to say this, but I didn't, about the bent over row, where you were like talking about the weight that you use, like 70 or 80. We're talking about pull-ups, and I just want to put this into perspective. How much do you weigh?
well, I weigh about 125.
Okay. How much weight are you pulling over a bar when you're doing a pull-up?
That.
125 pounds, right? So
Yeah.
so if you're like, oh, pull-up, okay, that's 125 pound
Yeah.
lat pull down. That's 125. So what's 125 divided by 2?
62 and a half.
So if you're doing a bent over row with one dumbbell, you better be using a 62-pound dumbbell to do a bent over row, because that's what you're going to do when you're doing a pull-up. So to
Mhm.
Mm.
put things into perspective, like, I want to get a pull-up. And I'm like, what are you doing bent over rows with? 20-pound
Yeah.
dumbbell? Well, that means
Mm.
you do a 40-pound pull-up.
I got
Like,
it.
you got to build that up, babe. Like, we got to be getting, your lats to engage more, right? We got to get
Yeah.
to be, same thing with push-ups. But if you can't move your body weight, right? Like, that's start there. We should be able to move our body weight.
Yeah.
And mind you, as women, we have a starting point. Our starting point with our body, as far as strength goes, is behind men.
Mhm.
Which has to do with muscle fiber types, where men and women have different muscle fiber types. And so, what we're capable of doing, and mind you, does that mean we can't do it? No, we just have to work harder for it, if that
Mm.
makes sense. So,
Yeah.
my women have a longer road to their first pull up than my men do. But men
Mhm.
who are
Mm.
untrained, I mean, it's not like I have men coming through the door who are banging pull ups out who don't train. You have to train for it, man or woman.
Yeah.
But that again, but men have less ability, the slow twitch muscle fibers. They have
Mhm.
less of those. We have more. So if we were to do, again, back to the women's seminar thing that I have taught a few of them. And one of the drills that we had was max air squats in 10 minutes. And it was 10 minutes, max
Yeah.
push-ups in 10 minutes, and then a max rack hold. Okay. So like two dumbbells rack hold. We've done
Mm.
deadlifts too, same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And with the squats across the board, on average, everyone was about the same. Okay, everyone
Mm.
ranged between 100 and 300. When it came to push-ups, the men were at like 500, the women were at like 20 to 50. I mean, I think the woman that got the most was maybe got to
Wow.
100. And then the rack hold, we had men that lasted about 10 to 35, 40 seconds, where women were 15 minutes to 20 minutes.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, and so
What
like
a
the
difference.
women, I mean, women had at least two, like for the weakest of the group, if you will, had at least a minute to 2 minutes in the tank of holding, where it's like
Wow.
men 10 seconds to 50, to 30 seconds, and they had a hard time. So we again, so which one's stronger? Well,
Mhm.
you know, so whenever people talk about strength, I'm like, well, oh, or fitness, how fit, how fit are you? Fit for what and compared to who?
Mm.
Is always how I answer that question.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So if you're a marathon runner, what fit looks like for a marathon runner is different than what fit looks like for a strongman competitor, or a CrossFit competitor, right? So fit for what and compared to who? So back to
Mhm.
that concept of, I don't want people to be me and be squatting 600, but don't you want to learn from someone who can do that?
Yes.
Right. So, and health. I also started this whole thing off with talking about fitness to be healthy or fitness to be competitive. So
Mhm.
for me, is it healthy what I'm doing?
Mm.
Debatable, right? Like putting 700 pounds on my back. I'm 100 and, what, 32 pounds. putting
Yeah.
700 pounds on my back, I'm going to have really great bone density.
Mhm.
Right? Like it's great for my bone density. Healthy? No, you don't need to work up to that. But
Mm.
you should be able to put at least 300 pounds on your back. All women, I'm making that statement for all women. If you're over the age of 70, that goes back maybe down to about 225,
Wow.
Mm.
right? So, you do want to have weight bearing ability.
Mm.
So, it's fit for what compared to who. And again, there's like this health swing, but we need to we talk about what heavy is. Like back to that pull-up concept is, if you should be able to do your body weight lat pull downs or half your body weight in a single arm bent over row.
Mm.
Otherwise, then that, again, that's still not that heavy.
Mm. Yeah.
There's just people doing more than that. You know what I'm saying? So if you have to do 10 pull-ups, that means you should be able to do a bent over row with more weight, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
adjusting that and taking off that self-governor. Like, if you're going in the gym, you're training, you're picking up weights, like if you're slinging that thing around, go up.
Mm.
Stop stopping.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I have a coach.
That's
That's why I have Lisa Maximus in my back pocket on speed
on
dial.
speed dial. I love it. But
Yeah.
it is nice to have a coach, to have someone sitting there being like, you can go up. Because it's
Yes.
almost like we all do kind of have that. Am I doing this right? Is this okay? And so when you have someone being like, that's great, go up. It's it instills more confidence
Right.
in what you're doing too.
Well, and it also, I think it's for me, what was super important about it is I wanted to do it safely. Like
Hmm.
truly, because like
Mm.
when you start to lift heavy shit and you don't have somebody telling you like about your form, you can fuck it up.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
let's be real. Like, I did
Mhm.
that. Like, I did that because I did a stupid thing and I didn't do the move that Lisa told me to do and put a video on for me to do. I did a completely different move and I pulled some muscles in my back. Remember when I did the really heavy good morning and it was supposed to be a squat?
No, was
Like,
But you didn't do that
what?
on purpose. That was that
no, because
you
I
weren't
just
trying to
thought
be
I was
flashy.
no,
Yeah.
but I didn't spend the time to like look at the video like I usually do. And I was like, okay, it was the one where it was a concentric squat.
Yep. Off the
Remember?
pins. Yep. And
Yep.
I wanted you to stand up under it,
Yes.
and you ended
Correct.
up hinging through it. And
Correct.
so it was
Mm.
one of those things where back to that when we were talking about, there's a million ways to skin a cat, right? There's no wrong way. You did a really heavy good morning, which is pretty
I know.
cool.
It was
It's
great.
pretty cool, right? But your erector didn't think so, and so
Nope.
it's like, uh-oh, your erector was like, I'm pissed. And so
Yep.
you had to deal with a
Mm.
pissed off erector for, probably 2 weeks. Week
Yeah.
3, we started working back through it and we're still ironing it out.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, like that's something that I need to pay attention to. And it
Yeah.
also tells us that let's strengthen that up, right? And it's not, we're not going to avoid it. It's like,
No.
all right, actually, it means we probably need to build your back a little bit more. Same thing with, with how my knees hurt. I'm like, you should probably lean into doing more deep knee flexion. Like, oh, my
Mm.
back hurts. You should start lifting with your back,
Mm.
like safely, smartly, the right way,
Yeah.
slowly, slowly. We don't need to like be winning an award of how quickly can we work up to max weight with your back, but you need
Mm.
to start using it. And that's the biggest thing that they start avoiding the stuff that they need to be leaning into.
Mm.
Mm.
So true.
Yeah. Doing
How
the
many
fun stuff.
people?
You go, Jen.
Yes, exactly what you just said. How many people are on your team who help you do what you do? Like you mentioned, you talked about your coach.
Yep.
You talked about your therapist. Like when you, and you talked about how much you enjoy therapy and how much you enjoy working with other people. Who are your teachers on on a regular basis?
I actually have like 2 coaches that I work with. One remote, she's in Ohio, and then one here. His name's Chris. Thank God for him. He's like my emotional support, everything.
Hmm.
He's the way I
Your
train with
emotional
him.
support coach.
He's like, yeah, he's like my relationship with Nick. Like I have that same dynamic. So I'm very
Mm.
grateful for him. And then it's kind of goes into like, my husband, thank God, that I have him to lean on. Without him, I couldn't do any of this stuff, obviously,
Mhm.
with the kids and all that. And so we have a really great balance there. And then it's body workers. Like I think that
Mm.
they're mega important.
Yeah.
Kind of the taking from the tank, you got to put back into it's like a bank account. Start draining the
Mm.
tank, you got to start putting it back in. And so there's a point in training and with, fitness and all that, where it's like if you start really taking things away, you got to start investing into it
Sure.
too, and all that. And so, I think that those people are really important. And that's pretty much like as far as that. I have another, his name's David Herrera. He is my like nutrition supplement guy. And he is
Okay.
very, I love, he brings out that woo woo side, the sun
Mm,
exposure side, the how much, 5G are you exposed to, the red light blocking glasses or the blue light
hmm
blocking glasses, the red tinted glasses, the light, what kind of light are you doing? Your sleep, reading blood work, what supplements are we working with? And I also have a functional medicine doctor. Thank God for functional medicine and not using general practitioners. Not, no offense to them. They're great for if you have a sinus infection, you go to that person. If you break a bone, you go to that person. But when it comes to our health, I cannot say this. Advocate for yourself, gut health stuff, advocate for yourself. Look for
mm,
a functional medicine doctor who knows how to read labs. That is probably the
mm,
biggest piece of advice if anyone's out there going through menopause, okay? If you're going through any sort of health issue, find yourself a functional med person, whether they are remote or they're close to you, and dig. If you see
Yeah.
someone and you don't get the answers that you want, go to another one.
mm.
I cannot say this enough times. Like I have been through a million doctors, and it's crazy how different a functional medicine person is from a general. And I could tell you stories for the next 6 hours about some of the horrifying advice that I've gotten.
Yeah.
And it's been brutal. Like the gut health stuff. I don't know one person who doesn't deal with gut health issues.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I'll just tell you right now, the biggest bang for your buck if you are dealing with gut stuff, whether it's SIBO, C. diff, IBS, colitis, gastritis, VSL3, letter V, letter S, letter L, number 3,
Yes.
life changing. And I think Nick, I got you on that.
Yep.
And you have to take 2 capsules 3 to 4 times a day. If you're repairing or you're dealing in current gut health hell,
Mm,
4 times a day you take that. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're maintenance, 2 to 3 times a day. So I take it 2 to 3 times. I have a flare up. I'm back to 4. Um,
mm,
and digestive enzymes. I think I do bio-optimizer digestive enzymes. I take those with every meal. 2 with a
Mhm.
mhm.
smaller meal, 3 or 4 with a larger meal. Those have been life changing. And then,
Yeah.
you can
Mm,
talk about glutamine, you can talk about creatine, we can talk about all that stuff too, kind of get in the weeds with that stuff. But that is mega gut health, gut reset. Anyone out there dealing with that kind of stuff, that's been life changing.
Yeah.
And me going through a million different gastroenterologists. And if one more person's like, have you tried? I'm like, don't.
yeah.
Been there, done
Don't,
that.
please don't talk to me about vinegars. Please don't talk to me about probiotics because the VSL3 is the only one that works. Because if you have a gut overgrowth of the wrong thing, you're on the wrong probiotic, it'll screw you up. The
Sure.
VSL3 is the only one that's been studied.
Mhm.
And they use it for C. diff and SIBO, and it's life changing. But it's like, if you're, FODMAP, I'm on FODMAP. I've taken all the, Atran-T, I've used, silver fern, I've been down all the roads and
Mm.
gotten every test and every scan and every all the things. And so it's brutal, and I feel like a lot of people are in that boat where they don't know what's wrong, and
Mm.
the doctors take this and do that, and it doesn't touch it, doesn't
Yeah.
cure it, doesn't help it, it doesn't, it's brutal. It's going through gut
What
health
did you
stuff.
learn your diagnosis was?
I don't have one. IBS, which means you have irritable bowel, which means nothing. It's like fibromyalgia. Oh, it's like
Yeah.
this catch-all. IBS is a catch-all for we don't know what's wrong with you. And I think
Mm.
that we're years away from figuring out the gut stuff, but talk about gut brain health, right? Anxiety, where does it start in the brain or
Sure.
in the gut? And if
Sure.
your gut's off, you get anxiety. But if you're anxious, it throws your gut off. And so there's this
Totally.
whole, it affects your sleep. It affects, brain fog, irritability, all that. You can't function if your gut's not right.
Yeah.
And then when you eat, you don't know. I remember eating felt like Russian roulette.
Sure.
That's
Oh,
awful.
I
yeah.
would sit in front of, and then guess what happened? I get anxious. So every time I would eat,
Mm-hmm.
I start eating, and my ears would slowly go like this into my, my shoulders would slowly creep into my earlobes. And
Yeah.
I would be so anxious eating because I never knew what it was that would set me off. I didn't know. And so, I hated eating, and sometimes you can't not eat. And so there's this, what do you
Yeah.
do? And I would just sit on my floor in my kitchen and throw Tupperware and cry because I didn't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
I mean, I'm so grateful. Like I've never had issues like that, but I know, Jen, like you've gone through bouts of like no matter what you ate, like it was miserable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just feeling like you got a basketball in your belly. You could drink water, you could drink coffee, you could eat nothing, you could eat everything. Yeah, that was a long journey. And also, Nick, you're sort of thinking about it retroactively, thinking that perimenopause probably started way
Mhm.
before it was even on my radar.
Did you
What are
figure
we,
out what it was?
food sensitivities.
Love that one.
Okay. Okay.
Love
Like
that one.
just so, you do the massive elimination diet for, half a year and it just, the not do don't do this for this month or this month or this month or this month, and then eventually add things back in. And, I know things that bother me and things that don't. And I know that I feel best when I'm eating fruits and vegetables and lean protein. And if I don't eat any grains, okay, well, but sometimes you want to take a handful of Mary's crackers and throw it into your, smoked salmon gazpacho, which I did today. So, and then we'll see how I feel a little bit later on. And like you said, it's a journey. And unless you have somebody who you're working with, who you care about and respect, and who seems like they're helping, it's maddening. But I was going to ask you about, you're being in nursing school right now.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
as
Well,
that's a
why.
fact? Talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I want to do back to that. Like, I want to do the thing where if I can help one person not go through what I went through, like,
Mhm.
that's like my passion. Like, I just want
Yeah.
to help. And so I just see it's been maddening between my thyroid, my hormones, my gut health, and how
Mhm.
many, and my anxiety, right? So I have OCD and anxiety. I've had that my whole life. I had a panic disorder when I was a kid, probably related to the OCD. I mean, it's all related, right? And
Yeah.
so growing up through that, and I don't want to medicate because I'm a competitive athlete. And so I've avoided taking any antidepressants, which will help with panic disorder, but I don't respond to them very well. And then my gut issues, which all seem, and I was a chronic migrainer. So I had chronic, so think about all
Ugh.
these categories. Chronic migraines, I'm talking like 19 migraines a month, and then
Ugh.
gut issues, and then panic OCD. And everyone's treating these things like they're very different, and no one's talking to each other. So it's
Mhm.
like, take an antidepressant for your depression, for your anxiety, but it'll help your gut too because of the gut. And but then the gut guy is telling me to drink this syrup which helps with with acid, which I don't have an
Mm.
acid problem, but it makes me anxious. Like, it's all this.
Yeah.
And so turns out, I'm going to fast forward through a lot of storytelling that I could do. I had my gallbladder removed, which helped a
Mm.
ton of my gut issues, but created different, let's call it different, same, issues, still different issues. Found out that I have thyroid dysfunction, slight. It's like subclinical, right? So it's on my thyroid's not optimal. But if you look at my diet and lifestyle, if I didn't live the way that I lived, I guarantee you my markers would be worse, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So it's like,
Mm.
because I'm subclinical doesn't mean I feel good. Like so being on thyroid medications, oh, life changing.
Life
And
changing.
hormones, right? So found out my hormones were also in the toilet. So being on hormone therapy and thyroid therapy, because they're both hormones,
Mhm.
has really helped brain fog, fatigue, and my stomach because I have gastroparesis, which of course my gastroenterologist said, and I quote, "We could test you for it, but we know you have it." Anyway, so I'm like, cool. I wish you would have tested me for that because then I could have been medication for it. But the medication's impossible to get your hands. It's like a whole thing. Anyway,
Gosh.
but the thyroid helps me regulate my stomach, my, bowel movements
Sure.
and things like that. Because when you don't have bowel movements, guess what happens? You get SIBO. What is SIBO? Small
Mm.
intestinal bacterial overgrowth. We all have issues with that, right? Because of their food supply. So if nothing's moving, the bacteria backs up and overgrows. And then when you have a flare up, you think you're allergic to every food because so it's like one of those things when my SIBO is managed, and things are good. I don't have the same food allergy, but it's like this whole thing. But of course, it causes anxiety. But so once I straighten my hormones out and straighten my gut out, my anxiety and my panic disorders come almost completely non-existent. And then the thyroid helps with brain fog, fatigue, and again, stomach regulation. And it's all helped getting my gallbladder out to help with my inflammation. And I got my implants taken out as well. I don't have migraines anymore. So whether that's hormone replacement therapy or the inflammation issue, I don't know what it is, but I haven't taken my migraine medication in 3 months. I had one in the past 4 months.
Wow.
Wow.
I used to have 19 a month.
I can't
So
even imagine
why I'm
your poor
so
quality of
happy
life.
that you're becoming a nurse and that you'll be able
I
to,
wanted the NP. The NP is what I'm
yeah,
going for. Yeah.
yeah, because the truth, I use Lisa as a doctor. She's not a doctor, but no, really, like I I had a conversation with her, I think it was a few weeks ago, and I was like, this is what I'm feeling. This is what my dose is for my estrogen and my testosterone. I'll check it with my doctor too. But like, what are you, and that what we thought collectively when we were talking about it is the same thing that the doc came back and said to me anyway.
Yep.
So
Mm.
like, I just want Lisa to get like all that so she can be a one-stop shop for me.
Yeah. That's the goal. The goal is to be able to do that, to help.
Yeah.
Because the difference too is like when we look at lab work and we're all getting, get your labs done, get your labs done, cool. But like who's reading your labs? And then the other problem is when you're reading the lab, there's the red and the green, right? So there's like
Right.
you're out of the normal range and you're in the normal range. Do you know how the normal ranges are found?
I do.
Tell us, Nick.
It's from a sick population.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's the population average, right? So
Okay.
it's like,
Mm.
what is normal? So as we collectively get more unhealthy, that range is changing.
Mhm.
Okay. So what used to be a healthy cholesterol, if everyone is higher because everyone's obese, that normal range is just bumping up
Mhm.
the scale. So now put that into perspective with everything. So back into like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to use men and testosterone because this is just it's easy number wise. Men's testosterone level, the range, to put it into perspective, is normal is between 800, 200 and 800. Okay, so that's how if man comes in anywhere between 200 and 800, he's normal. Okay,
Right.
optimal is 800 to 1,000. So if optimal is 800 to 1,200 is optimal. So you
Mhm.
got to think about anything under 800, a man is going to start to feel the symptoms and side effects of low testosterone. Okay.
Mhm.
Mm.
So when a man is 500 or 400 or 300, depression, anxiety, ED, brain fog, fatigue, interrupted sleep, us in menopause, right?
Mhm.
He can't
Yeah.
get his hands on medication or testosterone until he's under 200.
Wow. Really?
Mm.
I didn't know
Wo-
that.
Women, we don't even have
Right.
markers. We don't even have markers for that. They don't even
Mhm.
have markers. But I'll throw some numbers out there for women. If anyone has ever had their levels tested, I did. My testosterone was at a 9.
Mhm.
Okay, that's really low. Women think that we're actually more testosterone dominant than anything. Anyway, we'll go into that at another time. But we want to be around 50 to 100. Okay, so that's like the difference, but a difference again between a woman for a woman because our numbers are very much more slight.
Mhm.
So the difference between 9 and 20 and 20 and 30 and 30 and 40 and 40 to 50 is like it's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing as men of like 80 to or 800 to 500 to 400, right? Like those jumps are ours is just much smaller. So
Right.
it's when if your testosterone is suboptimal, again mine's at a 9, that's really low. Depression, anxiety, interrupted, like it goes back to the whole thing. I mean, it's just dysregulation. Well, let's talk about estrogen and progesterone because because we have the trio, so we
The
have to balance
trifecta.
all three of those,
Mhm.
and then you have cortisol, and then you have thyroid stimulating hormone, and your free T3 and your free T4, and then we have our LH and FSH, and we have to figure out what the prolactin is because you can have dysregulation with your prolactin, and so there's all these different things that we have to manage with our bodies. And so that's why I'm using men as a little bit easier to talk about their testosterone levels. But
Mm.
it's just one of those things where in the functional medicine world, they see a testosterone, around 500. They're going to help. They want to help you. They want to get a man to his optimal ranges, right? Get him back into that 800 mark. And I worked with a clinic for a while, and just I get to talk to these patients and how they feel before and after they're on therapy. And oh my, from the relationship with their wife to feeling like they should be feeling and to feel, vibrant and like themselves again, instead of being on antidepressants.
Yeah.
Because that's what you
Yeah.
get at the general doctor. Their testosterone at 300, which is really
Yeah.
low, and they take these antidepressants, which cause
Mhm.
ED and they cause fatigue so I'm like, you're making the problem, not you're making it
Mhm.
worse. That's unfair maybe, but it's like, why not use hormone therapy to help optimize our hormones,
Mm,
feel good and can think and can function. And, again, for me, having, hypothyroid, and I have Hashimoto's, and I have, my antibodies are high. And so for me, I have gastroparesis. My motility is very, very slow. And so it causes dysbiosis. And that thyroid medication helps my stomach
Mm.
move and do what it's supposed to be doing. And so, and it's just, but if my general practitioner does not want to write me a script for thyroid medication, they don't want you on any hormone replacement therapy. It's just, the system's backwards right now. It's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah.
so when do you graduate and hang up your
I
shingle
know, I
and
can't
start
wait.
fucking helping the rest of us?
I can't wait. Right now I'm struggling through
Jeez.
statistics and I'm like, ah. But it's fun. I'm like in a 20-month accelerated BSN and then into the NP. And I'm stoked about it because it's life changing. It's life changing. And now with all the peptides that we have available for inflammation and for general health and longevity and all this biohacking stuff is so cool and so
Mm.
exciting, and getting away from, Adderall and antidepressants and all this stuff
Yeah.
and leaning into these to peptides and hormones. It's like, holy mackerel, that we can do that. And what a better way, because there's a difference too between synthetic hormones and bioidentical, with
Mhm.
then that being cancer risk, right? Synthetic hormones is, we do not want that in our system. And God, you're seeing all these OBGYNs putting women on birth control for
Mm.
menopause.
Yeah, I know. I know.
No, it's really not good. Bioidentical is totally different than synthetic. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Especially when we have it available. It's not like you can't get it.
Yeah, no, I
Use
feel like
bioidentical
too,
hormones.
it that it opened up a whole new world for me when I went on all of the hormones and things
Same.
like that. It was and I've said this to you, Jen, you and I've talked a lot about just kind of this perimenopausal journey, and I feel like finally it's starting to get some exposure, and people are talking more about it. But man, like think sometimes women also don't know how badly they feel because they don't know what it feels like to feel
To
great.
feel good. Yeah.
And so once I went on testosterone, the trifecta, estrogen, progesterone, well, probably a four, like in the Armor thyroid, it was just a game changer, like
Yeah.
absolute game changer for me.
Yeah. And it's just crazy too. Like you said, we don't realize how sick we are until we feel better. And that is kind of what happened to me when I'm like, I don't know whether it was the testosterone or the thyroid, but that I was so fatigued and so strong. I don't want to call it strung out, but like there was a point in the day, like midday between 1 and 3,
Yep.
where it was so hard for me to put one foot in front of the other. Like I felt like I was going to fall asleep, but not really. Like if I sat still, I couldn't sit still, kind of a thing. But I was
Mhm.
like fogged over, like glazed over. Like if I couldn't work really because I couldn't think straight, but I
Yeah.
couldn't move really because it was hard for me to put one foot in front of the other. I just thought it was a normal midday lull. Like everyone
A
Mm.
normal
has this
midday
That's
lull.
because
natural midday lull.
that's
Yeah.
what we're conditioned to believe. My mother used
Yeah.
to talk about how when Sesame Street came on at 4 o'clock, she always knew when Sesame Street was coming on because she was exhausted. Well,
Wow,
she was
really?
probably,
Yep.
and my mother went through
Hypothyroid.
menopause at 41. So she went through it super young. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean,
Mhm. Yeah. So but
yeah,
exactly that. And so
conditioning.
the minute that I went on, thyroid support, I'm like all day long, I'm like, do, 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 do. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
I don't feel like I can function, I can think, I can talk, I can move, I can show up, I can, oh my gosh. And then at the end of the day, the wild part is I used to have that like really big lull, and then I would go to
Mm,
bed and I'd be like kind of wired. Like
wired.
I'd watch TV until way too late, even though like I'm like, God, in the middle of the day, I really needed a nap, and now I can't fall asleep. So now it's like this thing where I'm stimulated, I feel good, like not hyper, just aware, able to function. And then I go to bed and I'm tired. Close my eyes and I fall asleep.
Mm.
And then I sleep and I wake
Yeah.
up feeling refreshed. And I'm like, it's like my rhythm was reset.
Mhm.
And
So
so yeah, go ahead.
hearing how passionate you are about this, especially just because it's helped heal your life in so many ways. We've got a little bit it's hard to believe that we're almost at the end of our time.
Yeah.
But I would love for you to, like, if you had three takeaways or three things that you just wish that women knew, or just a couple of golden nuggets, some things that have been the most changing for you, what do you wish for women
I
in
think number
the
one,
feeling better realm?
yeah, I think great question. I think number one would be do hard stuff. Like
Mm,
lean into the hard stuff and do the honest self-assessment thing. Like really try to not be defensive and be curious. So instead of like, I don't do that or I don't, that's not me. Like, is it? Is it me? Like, do I do that? Like, huh, maybe I do. Be curious. Start asking yourself questions. Start looking at like, yeah, I work out hard. Do you? Like, look at it. Think about it. Like, am I pushing myself in the gym? Am I if someone's bringing something up about, how I'm behaving or acting or speaking, like, do I do that? Maybe, just start doing some honest self-assessment. Try not to be defensive, be curious about it. That's number one. Two, start lifting more in the gym, period. I don't care who you are, lift more. That's
Yep.
just a very general, always be true. You need to do more back work and you need to lift more weights. That's it. And then I think in the general health, like wellness area, find a functional med doctor and don't stop advocating for yourself. If you don't feel good, there is a reason why, and you need to find another doctor and you need to do more digging and you need to do more research. Don't take no for an answer. They did it with me with my stomach. They kept giving me this syrup to drink and told me to call them in 6 to 8 weeks. And I just called them back in 3 days. I'm sicker. I'm sicker. Something's wrong. I'm sick. And it turns out I had gallbladder disease and I was really ill and they needed to take my gallbladder out, but they wouldn't listen to me. And
Mm.
so they just kept giving me pills and then come to find out when you don't start looking at under the curtain, well, you have to kind of fail this treatment and fail this treatment and fail this treatment for them to get the insurance to cover this test to then have, and you have to fail that test to then get so there's hoops they want you to jump through that they need you to keep
Yeah.
pushing to jump through that the insurance companies make them do. So like you're not bothering, you need to be pushing and advocating for yourself. So those are my takeaways. Advocate for yourself, find a functional medicine doctor, lift weight, work your back, and do
Work
some
your,
mm.
honest self-assessment. Those are my takeaways, I think.
I love it.
You do so much. You are, it seems as though you're always thinking, you're always doing, you're always out there to help the people in your family, to help your husband, to help your clients. What's lighting you up right now? That's like what's making you happy. And when you need something that's gonna, I mean, you're talking about the bullshit walk talks with girlfriends and such, but like
Yeah.
what's your happy place right now?
My thing, I'm prepping for meet right now. And so I think competing is kind of like it's my thing. I get to compete. I could trying really hard because it's one of those things that's very exposing, right? Where it's
Mm,
like I can see my weaknesses, I see my gaps, it's where I can really test myself out, and it's mentally and physically, right? So it's a big physical feat, obviously, but there's a big meet coming up, and I need to stay in this mindset of competing with myself because when I start to compete with other people, that's always when I fail. And
mm,
so it's staying in me and pushing myself to my best and comparing myself to me the whole time. And when you walk on that platform and you're about to do what you're about to do, again, whether it be the most anyone's ever done, right? Like when I did set an all-time record in a squat, which means it's the most anyone's ever done ever in my weight class in history,
Ever.
ever,
Ever.
out of
tell
any
us what that, can
federation.
you tell
Yeah,
us what that, like, what was that?
the
Like,
squat, do
yeah.
it was 623 and I weighed 123 pounds. So it was in that weight class. Yeah, it was a big
My
squat.
goodness.
Yeah. And so it was one
Ah,
of those things when you walk up to the bar, right, and you're doing the thing, no one's ever done this, ever. Like this is the heaviest weight that a person of my weight class has ever done. I mean, there's quite, can I do it? Can it be done? Like there's like
yeah,
all these different, right? Like things that go on. And then you have your one shot. Like you're on the platform, you wait in, you have one shot to do this thing, right? So it's like you know, or did you warm up well enough? Did you sleep well enough? Did you eat enough? Like there's all these things that like play into this story, right? It's like kind of like the Olympics, if you will. Like you go to do this thing.
yeah,
Are you going to perform on the day? Like you hope you do, you hope it comes to fruition. And so keeping your mind right, keeping yourself, you've got to be amped up enough, right? You got to like You don't
Yeah.
really want it to do something that heavy, like, but you have to be like calm enough to think. And so there's this whole, there's a mental, and everyone's standing there and watching you. It's a lot of, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so you
You're
get to learn a
talking and
lot
I
about
hear
yourself.
Eminem's "Lose Yourself" in
Yes.
my like as you're I'm like
Yes.
you
Yeah.
got one you just got one chance
Yeah.
to
You've got one
opportunity comes
chance,
once in a
one
lifetime.
shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's this thing where you've got
Ugh.
to, it's the, just to not shake. Because when you
Mm,
stand up under that bar, I mean, there's times where I have stood up and you're shaking.
yeah.
You can't squat over 600 pounds when you're shaking. So
Mm,
you have to be able to breathe, that box breathing that I practice every morning in the ice bath. I mean, when I get in the ice bath
mm,
every day, it's that box breathing, 4 seconds in, 4 second hold, 4 second out, 4 second empty, right? Whole rhythm. And so that's kind of like the way that before I go on the platform, that's what I'm doing, right? It's that breathing
Wow.
because it helps me think. It gives me enough oxygen to think, but I got to be kind of amped up enough to do the thing and to
Mm.
trust the process. Did I work hard enough? My training cycle, because nothing more I can do now other than do the thing. And so,
mm,
and again, between each lift and, what are the judges going to call? And, you only have a minute to unrack the weight. And so there's a lot of pressure. And when do you
Yeah.
wrap your knees and how are you walking to, got to unrack? Are you even on the bar? Your feet where they need to be? It's just a lot of, practice
When
that
is the
goes into that.
competition?
November 9th.
And do you have a goal that you're willing to
Yeah.
share that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you're trying to
Yeah.
hit?
Yeah, so my goal is again, like I try to be better than what I did last time. And my
Okay.
last meet, I squatted 630, I think it was 635, something like that. So we want to get to 650. If that would be a great. I'd be really happy with that. Benching, I want to get to 315. Bench is my worst lift.
Mm.
And so if I can bench 315 ish, I'd be really happy with that. And then my deadlift, I've been struggling with my deadlift lately. I really want 500 this year. And so that's
mm,
kind of like the goal, but I'm just really struggling right now. My deadlift is not being cool. And so I'm having a really hard time with my hands. I'm losing the bar a lot, which isn't like me. And so I'm
mm,
like, what is going on? Like I don't feel like I'm in my deadlift zone right now.
mm,
So I
mm.
did 475 my last meet. I'm hoping to chip that. Like I'd love to get 485, something like that. 500 is the goal, but I just don't feel like that's there right now. So I would be happy again with
Mm.
650, 315, 475, 485 mark would be like the meet goal.
That's
I
So
just
we'll
think
see.
it's so
alternate universe you is telling you to have grace with yourself.
There you go. There
there
you
you
go.
go.
It's one of those
Right?
things where like I'm always hard on myself, like leading into the meet, and then the meet comes and things like tend to fall into place because you
Mhm,
prep in a way where you're like right now I'm just overloaded with volume and training and
Mm.
stimulus. And so of
mhm,
course my hands are like, that makes sense. I'm sore. I'm always kind of sore. Like so when you heal and you go into the meet, you're kind of firing on all cylinders. And
mhm.
so that you kind of have to like trust the process.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
because if you tax yourself too much leading into the meet, you're going to the meet beat up and you can't do
Yeah.
anything at all. So
Well, it's kind of like you have to taper when you're doing a marathon, right? Like
taper.
you,
It's the taper.
yeah,
Yep. Yep. It's
yep,
exactly it. But you have to train hard enough into it that,
right.
so that the taper does something.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a final question for you too. Since this is, women around a table eating food,
Yeah.
I would love to know what is a food that you could eat every day of your life and just be so happy to consume it.
Salad.
Salad.
But I love making salads. Like I love,
Mm.
because I would tell you French fries. I love French fries, but
Mhm.
it would feel icky over time.
Yeah.
Like
Mm. Mm.
that wouldn't be the thing, but and I love chocolate chip cookies. I love dark chocolate chip cookies with big chunky flaky salt. That is like, oh, I
Mm.
could
I
eat
got a
that every
recipe for
day.
you, girl. I
Send
got a
it my way,
recipe
please. Please.
that'll knock your family socks off.
Do it. Do it. I want it. So I'm like a big chocolate chip, dark chocolate
Mm. With
person, and
salt.
salt.
The
Oh, the
salt.
salt makes everything.
Mhm.
But when it comes to like fun eating, what I love, like I love a salad. I love beets. I
Mm.
love strawberries. I toast and like candy my own walnuts and pecans. Like, and I always switch it up. Maybe petite papitas. I love golden raisins. I love chopped up dates. Like I'll always switch things up. So it's like it has to be something a little sweet, a little tart, some like cranberries on there. But I would love a piece of like grilled salmon with crispy edges. on like a bed of something. I love kale. I'm a kale person. It agrees with me. That's the thing. Or buttered lettuce. Those are like my two jams. And again, with like whether it's pomegranates and beets and pistachios and salmon with like a citrus vinaigrette and a little quinoa or something every day, every day.
We'll be over at 6 o'clock
Yeah.
tonight.
That would be so much fun. I would love that. But
Wouldn't that,
that's
let's
my
go
jam.
around Lisa's table and eat some food. When
Yes,
you
you're
when you
welcome
come
Seriously.
here,
anytime.
when you come here, we'll make sure Jen is here and we'll sit around
I
this.
would love it.
I
And
will
then,
so bake. I will
yeah.
bake you cookies. I'll bake you 3 different types and you can test
Oh,
which one you like better.
oh, that's like my love language. That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
we'll do that. We'll take care of you when you come out here.
Oh, well, let's book it
Absolutely.
because I'm
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah, let's do it. So just to wrap up, I know where people
Oh,
can find you, but I would like for you to articulate where people can find you if they want to work with you, if they want to follow you, all the things.
yes. So Lisa Maximus is my Instagram. And I'm a person who, as you know, if you DM me, I am on there every day. And so I'm constantly checking in. I love to connect. So please, if you have questions, like shoot them my way. I love geeking out on this stuff. It's like my passion. So I love communicating. You can also, I do have YouTube. If you want to start lifting and you want to just learn some videos, go on my YouTube at Lisa Maximus. There's a ton of how to unrack a bar, how to deadlift, how to, bench press 101. Like you want to learn that stuff, go in there and learn, have some fun. I do have an app too. It is in my link, in my Instagram, on my Instagram. And so if you want to try my program, it's on there. And if you want to work one-on-one, send me a DM. You're like, hey, an app is like too distant. And like Nick and I, we work one-on-one together. I have that available too. Just shoot me a DM or an email, Lisa at Lisa Maximus. You can find me there anytime too.
Mm.
Awesome.
Cool.
You're
Thank
so
you.
inspiring.
Oh, thank you. You guys, thank you for doing this and having me on here. It's a
Yeah.
huge honor to speak to two very brilliant, powerful women. And it
Hmm.
just is I love what you're doing. So please keep doing it.
And we're going to have you back because I feel like we just scratched the surface with
I
certain
know. I
certain
know.
topics, and
I
I feel
know.
like we can have several kind of follow-up episodes. So
Yeah.
just be ready because there's going to be more that we're going to chat with you about.
Day one. I love it. This is just the best.
Absolutely.
So
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
thanks.